And we are live, everybody. Welcome back to the post office for our Survivor Series post show.
I'm John Pollock. He's Wai Ting. And joining us, I guess the superior brand tonight, Davie Portman and Braden Herrington are
Hello.
Hello.
Step off. This is our show now.
Wow, look at this. A very caffeinated Davie Portman and Braden Herrington representing Dr. Pepper and Vanilla Coke.
Vanilla Coke.
Wow, that's not one you run into too often, but there you go. That's not my kind.
That's not
Vanilla
your kind.
Coke.
I got a Dr. Pepper. Is it okay?
Dr. Pepper, it's you know what? I've hardly ever had Dr. Pepper in my life.
Don't get heat. That's
I
that's
like
not
Dr.
good.
Pepper.
Yeah,
Dr.
you better
Pepper's
watch
good.
it.
Real American
What would you
choice.
what would you categorize it as in the family of it? It's
I mean,
not root beer. It's not
somewhere
cola.
It's sort of like a cola
It's like a
alternative.
soft drink
Cherry Coke
amaretto.
kind of thing.
Is it its own category?
You love amaretto sours.
I'm not saying I don't like it.
Yeah.
I've really never tried it.
You love amaretto. Why aren't you drinking Dr. Pepper?
I like root beer. Root beer is the one of the few pops.
Yeah, root beer
like.
with your bourbon. That's his drink.
Root beer and bourbon is
Wow.
is a great.
I've grown to like root beer since moving here. It's not really. a
I
thing back
hated
home.
root beer up until maybe 2 years
Welcome
ago.
to our root beer review show. Soft
Yeah.
drink review show.
I always thought it was like gross as a kid, and then eventually got into it. That is what everyone is tuned in for.
Yeah,
for this
that's
live
it. That's
Survivor
Sunday
Series
night.
post show, guys. Thank you so
Wow.
much for returning here to the post office. This is your
Great.
Thank you for
return
having us.
visit after Thursday, where not only did you guys hang out, but we also did our Survivor Series draft that Wai Ting dominated, and
Killed it.
I had that moment the day after. Like, I didn't go into that draft with any kind of plan or even like the title for my team, and I was thinking the next day, I was like, damn it. If I had chosen the late Gorilla Monsoon as my manager for Team Pro Wrestling Gorilla,
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
I think I would have
Whoa,
won it.
spoilers for
No.
people who haven't heard the show yet. We don't know.
Go
if that's,
find out who made up Team Pro
I was
Wrestling
told
Gorilla.
that Seema and T-Hawk are known as the Strong Hearts, so they
Yeah.
would fit my team perfectly.
There
I
were a
was
lot
mad.
of hearts you could have gone with.
Yeah,
Who would have fit
I
my team
panicked. I
perfectly?
panicked.
Yeah.
I didn't think of anyone to fit mine. I think I won, but
Well, everyone can go listen to the show and they can debate, and then they can come to the conclusion that Wai won.
well, you can't just find this show anywhere. It's on patreon.com/upnext.
Okay, you only get 3 of those this show. Okay,
Three of
so
That's
you-
one.
Use,
Three
the-
each
use them
or-
wisely.
or
Three
three
each.
No,
between
total.
us.
Absolutely
Three
total.
each. Listen, NXT won tonight in Survivor Series, so we, the BDE, the Braden Davie.
Okay, you get 1 for each
experience,
victory they had tonight, so you get 4.
Four,
We'll
okay.
give it 3 more.
We're coming in our shirts.
We're representing.
Wait a
tonight,
minute,
yeah.
wait a minute. It's more than just shirts. For those that are watching right now, Braden, can you please show off the most hideous fashion statement of the year?
I found this in Davie Portman's closet. It is the Undisputed Era armband, but limited edition because it's before Roddy joined.
Pre-Roddy.
Look, there's no little Roddy symbol underneath. So
Look at that. I did not think these armbands existed until the Survivor Series tonight. Only
Anything
to find out you guys
possibly
own
that
one.
exists, yeah. does
no,
exist.
I don't own them. I own a John Cena spinner replica. That's it. Davey owns everything else. So it's kind of evened out. Yeah. He owns 2 pairs of AJ gloves.
So since we review Raw and SmackDown, I guess we need like a dog outfit or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or we
The
could get
big
the
dog.
R or S armbands that they had tonight. Those
R
those are
and S.
pretty
Wow.
pretty
Pretty
cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were selling those in Chicago tonight.
I don't know.
Armbands. Like some guys would buy those. Absolutely. Completists out there. The Raw armband. Well, we have a lot to discuss. I think that off the top we should discuss one of the major news stories today, and that was the lack thereof of Mauro Ranallo at tonight's show on the Survivor Series. He had been scheduled to call several of the matches tonight. Obviously, he did not call any. Nigel McGuinness and Beth Phoenix were there, and I think a lot of people have looked at the past 24 hours. I did not see these tweets on Saturday night, but apparently Corey Graves, while watching TakeOver, he had a pair of tweets referring to Mauro Ranallo, and I'll just read them quickly. The first one came at 8:34 p.m., so this is right in the middle of TakeOver. Just for the record, guys, I know you wouldn't know it, but there's actually a WWE Hall of Famer and a former Ring of Honor champion on commentary. I'd imagine they have a lot to offer. And then later, a user had referenced how many Chicago rap references has Mauro made so far, and Corey's response was far, far too many. Now, Sunday, Mauro Ranallo suspends or deletes his Twitter account. He is nowhere to be found on this show. And apparently he went home, and the cover story that was given on the show was Mauro Ranallo was so passionate last night that he blew out his voice, which for the life of me, I can never recall Mauro Ranallo losing his voice. Maybe it's happened, but I cannot recall it. And he has been calling high-level sports for a long time. And I'm sure that they are hoping to just get through this. He's expected to be back on Wednesday. But if all of this was too hard for people to piece together, I think the smoking gun was Frank Shamrock, his agent, one of his close friends, who responded to Corey Graves' tweet, just referencing a message that Corey had posted earlier with the text, "Social media has made too many of you comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the mouth for it." So I think everyone understands what the story is here. I think most expect that Mauro will be back on Wednesday, but I just think from just the perspective that, Corey Graves is a colleague of Mauro Ranallo, and to do this online, like, this would not be acceptable if he went and tweeted about Beth Phoenix, if he tweeted about Nigel McGuinness, anybody, much less someone who has very well-documented problems, that is bipolar, that had a documentary about him. And all you have to do is go and watch the one scene in the documentary that resonated with me the most was after he had called one of Floyd Mayweather's fights, going back to his hotel room and just reading the positive feedback and just what this guy battles with. So it's just, it's a very rough story, given that everyone is aware of the struggles Mauro Ranallo has. I just think at the very baseline, it was very unprofessional of Corey Graves.
Well, to even add to that, before, I can't check the tweet now because Mauro's deleted his Twitter, of course, but last night he tweeted after the show, something regarding his anxiety and depression, and hoping that it wasn't going to creep up on him too hard because he was on such a high from that show. So I don't think there's any need for a reminder of what's going on there, especially from a colleague. I echo your sentiments. I think Corey can, of course, express the opinion that he expresses. I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. I think it's doing it in such a public place, in a way, embarrassing. I think, a fellow colleague that makes this really hard to take, I'm sure, for Mauro. And again, this is speculation because we don't know the real reason why Mauro might not be around. But I think if you read Twitter, a lot of people are definitely not buying the excuse that the WWE gave you and maybe putting 2 and 2 together on their own.
I think everyone can do the basic math on this particular story. But, for you guys that cover this each week, did you feel that, I felt in particular in that AJ Shinsuke Nakamura Roderick Strong match, I thought Mauro was really missed in that match. I mean, just identifying some of the moves. And there was a time, like, there were struggles at times with the crowd being engaged that I felt Mauro would have added a lot of energy to.
Definitely.
This. Yeah. And let me and also, like, I know Mauro has his detractors as well, but I do feel that in a professional environment, like, if you really said something that was grating to me, Davey, I would maybe talk to you privately. I would never tweet something. Just knocking a colleague of mine, a teammate of mine.
Actually, what kind of sucks the most is that, like, I watched a documentary online, like, that is out on, was it Showtime that did it?
Showtime did
about this man and, like, what he goes through and all this stuff, and then a colleague who's supposed to be, like, your friend. You're all working together. Is this not like a unit? Is it not like a family, essentially? I don't know. It's kind of like
that, I think the feeling that Graves felt it was okay to tweet something like that suggests that he sees some sort of line between maybe himself and maybe his commentators like him versus some more Ranallo for some reason.
Right.
He put that tweet out thinking that it was a way to compliment Beth and Nigel McGuinness for not being representative enough.
But
on
the
that
second
show.
tweet, what
about the rap references?
Yeah, he said far too many. It's just like
he's critical of Mauro's commentary, and it's fine to have that opinion. It's just, I think, a bad look if you're a colleague of somebody.
It's definitely because he's...
I think it's the forum as well. If you're in a kind of interview and you're like, well, what do you think of, like, commentary in general these days? And do you listen to the other... And you make a comment like that, I think it's going to be a bit more passable. But we all know what Twitter is. Anything you put out there, you're going to expect some kind of reaction to it. And it's just... I just feel completely unnecessary, especially given the fact that Morrow suffers with mental illness
Yeah.
as well.
What's the beef there? Like, why did he have to say it the way he did? And he hasn't said. We're recording this right after Survivor Series as of now, but he hasn't said anything. He was on the show on Survivor Series. I feel like now this instantly makes a lot of people kind of go, "Hey, man, that's not cool."
I think
You're
he'll
not
get
cool."
a lot of criticism for this
Yeah.
on Monday, and I think he will have to address this on his podcast this week.
Exactly.
I think this will be a pretty notable story on Monday. It was just kind of everyone was swooped up in covering Survivor Series on Sunday, but this will be a notable story coming out of tonight. So I don't really have much more to add than that.
Well,
I
I
think,
missed Morrow. I did. I think you're
for,
right.
for the NXT title
The
match. you
NXT
needed
title
him as
matches,
well.
we needed more Ronaldo on
Yeah.
NXT Championship defended on a WWE pay-per-view, a huge like classic name Survivor Series, and like we didn't get our guy, so it's just I kind of felt a little robbed a little bit.
I also kind of wish they just didn't address it at all.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone's calling bullshit.
I know as much as people
And-
on Twitter know, and even I was like, come on.
You just feel, okay, so Beth and Nigel are representing
Yeah.
NXT tonight, and I think people would have been like, okay, still speculated, but the fact that they came out with blowing out the voice thing, maybe it's true, who knows, but I'm not buying it.
Well,
And
I
it
like
just
it.
makes them look bad.
I like
think.
his hip hop references as long as there's no more Cardi B or Lizzo.
let us then move on to the actual Survivor Series. At the end, I do want to get some thoughts way on TakeOver, and maybe you guys as well, just 24 hours removed from that show as well. But we have a lot to discuss from the Survivor Series going all the way back to 5 p.m. Eastern Time with not one, a 2-hour kickoff show, because you can't just kick off in an hour. You need to have 2 to get ready for the show. Panel consisted of Jonathan Coachman, Booker T, Charlie Caruso, and David Otunga. Later, we would have Christian involved on the panel as well. And what I wanted to start with, Sam Roberts and JBL, who are also part of this. And this has been a slow evolution of Sam Roberts, who is now just playing like the
Internet smart.
the dick. Yes.
Wait, are you talking about evolution? Because the evolution we saw was the evolution of JBL,
JBL.
turning into Vince McMahon.
It's frightening.
He
There's this
looked just
picture out
like
there.
him.
Got
Go
the
find
sides shaved
JBL
a
and
bit.
Sam Roberts in this shot. He looks like Vince.
Do you think this works at all for Sam Roberts, putting him in this role where it's? Do you remember back? Maybe it was January for one of the takeovers, and he took. Was it
The
Bianca
Bianca
Belair,
Belair.
who he was like
Yeah.
just running down, and he got a ton of criticism for it.
Oh, yeah.
And they've just like run with it now that this is his thing. Do you think this works, or do you think it's a turnoff?
I'm not opposed to it because I tend to not like these shows because they seem so fed their lines. Booker T, who do you think's going to win? Oh, well, I think it's going to be my boy D. Bry. Beth, who do you feel? Oh, I feel it's going to be this person. And I think even though he's playing this character, it makes it feel a bit more real. And I'd much rather have polarizing opinions between everyone than just the same old shtick.
JBL also gave us a history lesson about the Survivor Series and its origin going back to 1987, that it was a response to Jim Crockett, quote, trying to lock up the pay-per-view window, which I guess he didn't have the time to expand upon that and explain that Jim Crockett Promotions ran their Starrcade pay-per-view every year, and on this particular day, WWF decided we're going to put a pay-per-view against them and then make the cable providers have to pick one or the other. They can't run both, and if they run Starrcade, you don't get WrestleMania next year. And it led to 5 cable providers running with Starrcade. It was detrimental to the company and surely sped up the sale to Ted Turner the following year.
I'd love to hear JPL try to recap all that.
Well, he only had so much time here. He had to get into everything, but I'm sure that's what he meant by lock up the pay-per-view window. So, then we went into our first match. It was an additional match. There were 2 matches added to the kickoff today. Lio Rush, Kalisto, and Akira Tozawa for the Cruiserweight title. I would give $5 if someone with no prep could tell me the brands all 3 of these men are involved with.
They're all of our brand. They're all NXT.
This was the match where they had the armbands for all the guys. Not every match that they
We
have.
kind of needed the armbands here. Akira Tozawa is Raw.
Yeah.
Kalisto is SmackDown.
Kalisto is SmackDown.
He has to be, right? Because Lil Rush is NXT. This is where they mentioned that Paul Heyman was interviewed, previewing the No Holds Barred match. And then Shawn Michaels came on to announce that Team NXT, the men's team, would consist of Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, Matt Riddle, Damian Priest, and Walter.
Who would make such an impression later on.
We can't wait to talk about that.
Yes, we'll get to Mr. 3-minute warning later. And then Kathy Kelly interviewed Adam Cole. He admitted he is not 100% after a ladder match,
Really?
after a tag match on SmackDown, after War Games and an air raid crash off the top of a cage. He's not 100% tonight.
Jeez, give this man a raise this week. He had a ladder match. Did he show up on SmackDown on Friday? Probably. Yeah,
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
It was
whole
the
thing.
8-man.
Yeah, and then Saturday, just in a War Games match, falling backwards through tables, and then
With that little wrist injury that he had this whole
yeah.
time.
Oh, by
yeah.
the way, he's in a cast at the same time. Yeah.
Well, the week's not over yet. Let's show up on Raw for a
I'm
Iron
praying
Man
this
match.
guy does not have to wrestle on Monday.
Yeah, me too.
He's going to be in the crowd for Britt Baker on Wednesdays.
Yeah,
Or was
that's
that
right.
last week in Chicago?
So first up, the tag team over the top rope battle royal featuring teams from all three brands. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, the Forgotten Sons, the Revival, Ziggler and Rude, the Street Profits, Fandango and Tyler Breeze, Grand Metalik and Lindsay Dorado, Fabian Eichner and Marcel Bartel, Heavy Machinery, and the tandem of Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. We just went through a litany of eliminations. All those teams, this match went 8 minutes and 19 seconds. I'm just going to fast forward to the end here as Ziggler missed a super kick, hitting Rude that sent him through the middle rope. It's down to Ziggler and Rude with the Street Profits, and then Montez Ford was on the top, got shoved onto the apron, but he held on. Ford then recovered and rotated in midair, hitting this cool frog splash that I think was the best thing in this match. And after landing the splash, he went into the air off the rebound, and Rude grabbed him and threw him to the floor. So SmackDown got a victory here in 8 minutes and 19 seconds with Rude and Ziggler.
Pretty generic battle royal, I thought. You know, the crowd didn't seem all that into it, but I'm sure the guys appreciated the excuse to get on the show. Did the show need a battle royal?
This was purely for
maybe
numbers,
not.
to give SmackDown a number,
Sure.
and that was about it.
I like the total tally that they started to add at the bottom of the screen
Right.
for all of them.
It
Because
felt
last year,
very like sports this whole
Oh,
show,
yeah.
like Fox. Like you got the tallies of the scores, the whole. Whenever there was a match with each person in the corner, it would have a little thing like The Sims, but in each color above the corner, being like NXT, Raw, SmackDown. It was
Yeah.
really cool. Also, Fabian Eichner is amazing. He's from NXT UK with Marcel Bartel, and they're fantastic. So to see them kind of get a little bit of shine, even if it's in this, is cool.
If anything, like this weekend really, to me, was the marriage of NXT with NXT UK that I think we should expect a lot more crossover
hope so.
between the two, and
Yeah,
that's almost like its own brand is the two of them under one umbrella.
Yeah, because I believe Kona Reeves has moved
finest.
to NXT UK now,
The
and
finest.
I'd be happy to see like Imperium come to NXT for a
Yeah.
proper run as well.
Leo Rush, Kalisto, Akira Tozawa for the Cruiserweight title. We have Byron Saxton and Aiden English calling this one. And, I mean, the three worked really hard. I thought by the end of this, they kind of got the crowd going. There was a Salida del Sol by Kalisto that was hit onto Rush, but then Tozawa stepped in to stop it with a Shining Wizard. Tozawa went to the top, hit his huge senton onto Rush. Kalisto broke that up. And then Kalisto landed on his feet on a released German attempt, hit Tozawa with the Salida del Sol, and then Rush came off the top, hitting the final hour with Kalisto eating the fall. Leo Rush is your winner. More important than this match is the fact that after 12 years, my stopwatch
No.
has kicked it. It did
No.
not survive the series.
No.
it
Are you
stopped.
joking?
It's not so much that it stopped. It's just it can't stop. It's like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So I noticed this the other night for TakeOver that during the War Games match, it froze. It froze on a time. I was like, did I like hit this by mistake or something? And I'm thinking it's me. Today, I saw it would freeze, but then the weirdest thing happened. I would reset it, and on its own throughout the day, it just starts going.
Whoa.
No touching it. So either The Conjuring 5 is being filmed in the post office, or I need a new stopwatch. So
Wow.
it's my phone for now, and I've used the same stopwatch that you hear beeping in the background. I've had it since I think 2007.
You've had such fond memories through the years, lending it to people.
I can admit
Using it
now
everywhere?
that it's fair game. There were a bunch of these at work, and I just stole one.
Oh.
I just swiped one. There were like 5 of them when we had to do those 1-minute updates in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And they had like 5 of them. I'm like, I need a stopwatch. I just grabbed it.
Wow.
Oh,
You just
I
admitted
won't,
to
I won't
that.
tell anybody, John. It's okay.
Leo Rush wins.
I quite enjoyed this match.
It was good.
I
It was
loved
fine.
There was a really cool spot where I believe it was Tozawa, I think, hit a bridging German to Rush, and Kalisto runs up his chest and flips into a
Jackknife.
jackknife pin attempt himself. was awesome. Just I've never seen that before. I thought that was very cool.
It's very fitting that your stopwatch stopped on the man of the hour with Lio Rush. But I'm happy that he didn't lose the title here. I didn't expect him to, because I need to see that rematch with Angel Garza.
And they were pushing that on commentary throughout the match. They were saying, will Lio Rush be focused because his mind should be on Garza, who he had a confrontation with backstage last night.
I really didn't expect many, title changes between brands on this show, especially when they've been pushing NXT so hard with the Cruiserweight belt and Lio Rush so hard. This didn't really feel like the right time, but it felt like a great time to showcase him, and I thought it was really good action, like you guys said, but it did suffer from your typical 205 Live crowd.
They should have
atmosphere.
They needed all purple armbands, because technically aren't they all 205?
No,
not really.
That's folded into NXT now.
Right, yeah.
Sami Zayn interrupted the panel, and he discussed the three-way involving AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Roderick Strong, that it could be a match of the year because of their artistry. And they can't appreciate the artistry that these men possess. And this was our first of several CM Punk chants, which was really translation for "we're bored" throughout this show. There were several of them.
Yeah, it was their protest chant.
Kayla Braxton interviewed The New Day. They wished Xavier Woods a speedy recovery. And we go into our final kickoff match, the Viking Raiders, Kofi Kingston and Big E with Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. This featured Vic Joseph, Jerry Lawler, and Corey Graves on commentary. Really well-worked match. I thought this was the best of the three matches we had on the kickoff. Really great showcase once again for O'Reilly and Fish. And I thought the Viking Raiders, you could see how well they meshed with O'Reilly and Fish. I think they could have a phenomenal tag program if they revisit that feud eventually down the road. Kingston was launched over the top by Big E, who then did his crazy spear that he only brings out every now and then, taking Eric off of the apron down to the floor. Eric then lifted Big E. Ivar launched off the middle rope for the clothesline, and then Ivar did a cartwheel, avoiding the high-low from Fish and O'Reilly, and they were able to catch O'Reilly and hit the Viking Experience to O'Reilly on top of Fish and squashed him like a fish, and they scored the fall in 14 minutes and 40 seconds.
Really good three-way, I thought.
This was our lone Raw win of the night.
Yeah.
In the end, yeah. I thought there were some that were disappointed when the Revival were taken out of this match, and I completely understand it. But at the same time, I feel like in this match, they kind of took the New Day up for a lot of it, and they really just kept it towards the Viking
They definitely
experience.
felt like the third wheel in this.
Yeah, they kept it for as a chance for the Viking Experience and for Undisputed Era to take the spotlight, to showcase themselves. And as a result, I don't know if that necessarily helped the match, because I feel like the crowd didn't really get into it due to the lack of star power. But by the end, I definitely did feel like they got him. I thought Kyle O'Reilly always, to me, steals the show, as did Ivar, who continues to be a real standout in that division. But I thought Big E looked great as well. So I liked the match. They definitely got the crowd by the end, but not throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I was the one of the people who was upset that Revival was taken out of this match. And then I was also upset when it was on the pre-show. It went from one of being the most fantasy dream matches ever to taken away to now on the pre-show.
When you look at this card, what would you have moved, right?
I don't know. Yeah, it's true.
There's like 10 show card.
Exactly. Yeah, there was a lot of matches.
And I think the problem is a lot of the matches have a lot of people in it. So
sure.
do you
And
want
I
to pull one of
have
the...
seen like Cole and Dunn thrown onto the kickoff?
Absolutely.
Like that would have really hurt the presentation.
And they probably got more time this way than if it was on the main show.
I still kind of like the match, but I mean, we've been doing Up Next for a little while. We've seen the Undisputed Era and the War Raiders, or the Viking Experience, whatever you call them. We've seen this matchup, and they have this crazy program. If you've been going back to like Ring of Honor days, these guys have been like killing it for years, and then the New Day was just kind of chilling. So
I was okay with New Day in the match, though. I feel when you're doing these brands v brands, you have the Revival, you just think it's 3 NXT teams.
Yeah.
And New Day are very, very WWE. So I was kind of cool with them being in the match.
I kind of wanted to see more of them, to be
yeah,
honest.
I wanted
I
a bit
agree.
more. Yeah. I liked the match, but it wasn't what I wanted.
But again, it shines a light on just like how many great tag teams you actually have within the WWE.
Oh, yeah.
You throw in the Usos in there as well, Mustache Mountain. Like, this is just this great pool that they can actually pull from if they wanted to treat them seriously.
Yeah, I mean, even in the Battle Royal, like you have a mix of quality teams in there as well. And man, Kofi is really like holding his cards close to the vest, like about this. Man, when this guy snaps, it's going to be out of nowhere, because you cannot tell
that completely.
For
There's
all the
nothing
holding
going
out
on.
hope, it's starting to, the hourglass is
I
getting
will
empty.
completely give up once the Rumble passes and he's not even part of the conversation. That remains my one glimmer of hope.
It's going to be
Yeah.
very sad if the Royal Rumble comes and goes and he's right back to the the crazy near elimination spot. Like, it just feels like that's such a step back.
I mean,
That'll be the full exclamation point to the whole thing.
it's jumping ahead, but I can't really think of any programs for Brock anyway moving forward. So he's the only one, unless you go back to Ray, that I actually see you can start putting steam behind because he lost so embarrassingly and so quickly.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. It needs to be the Rumble or not at all, really. Yeah.
Then after the tag match,
But they're on separate brands, so
Well, that's if you win the Rumble, you can go for any title,
you're right.
I
You're
guess.
right. Yes.
so then we go on to the main show. That was the end of our 2-hour kickoff show, and kicking off the main show was our first elimination match. It was the women's match with Team Raw, represented by Charlotte Flair, Natalya, Asuka, Kairi Sane, Sarah Logan, against Team SmackDown's Sasha Banks, Nikki Cross, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, and Carmella, and Team NXT, which was announced after TakeOver, Rhea Ripley selecting Io Shirai, Candice LeRae, Bianca Belair, and Toni Storm, who maybe I'll be there, maybe I won't. Turned out she was there.
Yeah.
It's Tony time.
They filmed a bit of a backstage segment for .com last night, or I believe it was on Facebook Live, where they had Triple H asking.
Yeah, this is his usual post interview with Kathy Kelly.
Right, but you had Rhea Ripley on talking about who she was choosing
And
as
why.
a part of her
Yeah.
team, and I really liked it because she gave solid reasoning for everybody. I mean, Candice being the one that was there with her by her side, but also put over Io Shirai and Bianca Belair for being two very impressive people. That
Did
took
you
part
say
in that
Shirai
match.
gets me high?
Did not say that.
Good.
But-
She shouldn't.
But great justification for Toni Storm as well, somebody that she's known since she's with Teen
Yep.
and came up with. So I thought it made total sense. Unfortunately, we didn't really get to see any of that. But by the end of it, I think there was solid explanation about why they didn't announce Team NXT prior to this, because you didn't know who was going to be healthy yet.
Yeah, that was the reasoning Paul Levesque gave, that they didn't know coming out of War Games who would be available the next day. So that is what we got. Calling this women's elimination match, Michael Cole, Beth Phoenix, and, buckle up, Jerry Lawler.
I kind of like the team, actually. Like, it had been a while since I heard Cole and King together, and to me that there was a bit of nostalgia there, and I thought actually Beth sounded really good with them.
What they tried to do in this was you had 3 women in at all times representing each brand, and then they would just go through the various pairings, and they were building them up in kind of name value. And I think they were expecting much bigger reactions when you would have the visual of so-and-so is here with so-and-so. And this is a real struggle with the crowd, I thought, throughout this.
I felt this crowd was kind of dead the whole night, almost.
I feel they picked up later, but yeah they
Chicago, what happened?
I didn't sense that at all, actually, watching this match. I thought they really got into several pairings, especially Kyrie and Io, once you got into that.
I think there were some. That was one of them. They were just kind of going through combinations. When they got to Kairi Sane and Io Shirai,
Yes.
they were in there. And then Ripley tagged in. They got excited for Ripley being in as well. And then they do the sequence where everyone comes in, everyone gets laid out with a move. And you see Candice take a super kick from Carmella, rolls to the floor. And then all of a sudden we cut over and Candice LeRae and Io Shirai are laying on the floor. We never saw what happened to them. They're just down. And then they get picked up and they're taken out of the match.
Oh.
And it was done in such a strange manner because there was no visual to explain their elimination. So even if, like, later they'll come back, spoiler, but I think that honestly, like, the crowd was, like, genuinely concerned about these two, that it could have been a real injury because everyone stopped. Everyone froze as if this was not planned. And I think they overthought themselves in this because I think people were actually concerned about there being a real injury.
Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, because I think it did hurt the rest of this match that they
Yeah,
were.
it
I
took-
just
it got
thought this
me
was a
upset.
Really?
dejected crowd until they came back.
See,
at the
I
end.
didn't. I thought it was a work immediately once I saw the heels taunting them.
that
Yeah.
wasn't right away though.
Yeah,
I
I knew it was a work when they realized it was just focusing, but I was a little upset that even when the angles of the terrible shots of a move don't really connect, they show it once still, but they didn't show.
I think
anything.
the fact they didn't have any kind of
They didn't have
a
anything.
replay, they didn't have anything to show you. It's two
I was
teammates
upset.
that apparently have run into each other.
I will.
So are they wrong for doing too good of a job?
No, they
'Cause that
didn't
was
do a
the
good
intent
job
of the
because they didn't
spot.
see what happened. I'm like,
I think you need that visual. It's like
Yeah,
it's-
you need it.
you're
If
missing something there.
It's like I can't just take your word for it. I need to see if they're hurt. Like 5
But
minutes prior.
you were so concerned.
I was actually this got me so frustrated.
That means it worked better that you didn't see it.
No, because I was upset. Like John said, it took me out of the match. I couldn't care. First
you
of all,
wanted to see
But
the
you
replay.
got that feeling when you see a legit injury.
I don't know. I
No?
didn't have the same feeling. It made me upset because I knew it was a work.
'Cause I'll be honest, I also didn't think it was a great match. I thought
No,
like
yeah,
I just thought there were a lot of women in this match, and it was like comparing this to the men's match, it was night and day.
Look, I got really
disagree
excited.
completely. I thought this match was awesome.
When you had the stare down with Io Shirai and Kairi Sane, Shirai will survive was my motto for tonight, and it was epic. You got the tease that we want. Like one day, WrestleMania main event in the Tokyo Dome will be Kairi and Io 60-minute Iron Woman match. Book it. Just do it. Triple H.
WrestleMania main event in the
Yeah,
Tokyo
near
Dome.
down, like years later. Just do it. Just do it. So yeah, then I was like, super excited into that.
Yeah.
You had the spot where Carmella was trying to get involved, but she's like, "Hey, pay attention to me." But they didn't care about her because of their history. And then, like, not even a few minutes later, they're out. Candice and Io are taking out of the match, and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
The way they followed up at the end, I was not a fan of. But I mean, to take the two of them out of the match, I had no issue with it at all.
I was just confused with the rules as well, because I assumed it being a triple threat, there'd be no DQs, no countouts.
Yeah.
But then in the later one, we saw there was countouts. It's were they actually taken from the match, but they weren't ever eliminated, like injury wise? I thought that was confusing. But I actually really enjoyed the match up until this point. All the little combinations, the bit when they were all firing up and getting their shit in was really cool.
Yeah.
I was surprised, unless I missed it, I was really expecting a Rhea and Charlotte stare down at some
More
point.
bigger of a spot because that's a match we
But
want
that
to see.
didn't
down the line.
happen. But I enjoyed it up to this point, but then I just found it got confusing.
You know, the struggle for both matches was going to be at a certain point, you were going to have to go through rapid fire eliminations. And we got, as the match resumed, NXT's down to 3 women. Cross dives off the apron onto Ripley and then gets attacked by, starts attacking Storm with forearms. Ripley just lifts up Cross, and from behind, Belair rolls up Nikki Cross, eliminating her. Then Belair hits Logan with this 450 splash. I thought Bianca Belair looked really good in this match. She, to me, is someone that
she always stands out.
she just like very impressive athleticism that always shines. She's got just a great look, right down to like her different outfits and stuff. Like she really stood out a lot in this match for me. Flair then was tagged in with Belair, and they continued here. Carmella eventually hit a top rope Rana onto Charlotte Flair off the turnbuckle, landing on Belair. But then Flair came back moments later to eliminate Carmella with the natural selection. Then Sane hit a spinning back fist onto Toni Storm and the insane elbow, which Banks cuts off by hitting the running knees, eliminating Kairi Sane, who was gone, and the crowd seemed a little dejected at that elimination.
Why would Sasha do this?
It didn't make a whole lot of sense why she would stop an elimination.
Because she wanted to screw everybody.
She wants the most elimination. She wants to be...
She's the boss.
I mean, at that point, it became Sasha versus Rhea and somebody else, or was it just Sasha?
Well,
versus
Toni
Rhea?
Storm was the one who took the insane elbow, so she could have just let her cover her.
yeah.
That's
Okay,
one less person.
Yeah.
And then Banks, so she stopped this, eliminated Sane. Asuka enters for the first time. She was in this briefly, eliminated Dana Brooke with a spin kick. And then Asuka and Flair got into this argument as teammates, and Asuka gets shoved down. Flair continues. She's doing that damn Flair strut. Turns around, and Asuka hits her with the mist. And the audience woke up here, I thought. They're chanting for Asuka. Charlotte has got the green mist all over her face, and Evans hits Flair with the woman's right, so Lacey Evans pins Charlotte Flair. So clearly that was, I think, designed as something for Lacey Evans to come out of this with. Natalia's in. She quickly eliminates Evans, so it's down to Ripley, Belair, and Storm for Team NXT. Natalya on Raw, Banks on SmackDown. And Natalya and Banks work together. They apply a sharpshooter crossface combination, and Toni Storm taps out. Crowd was upset with that one. Heart Attack eliminated Bianca Belair. So all of a sudden NXT has lost 2 members, and we got one representing each. Sasha turns on Natalya and attacks her and eliminates her after striking her with a right hand. And we're down to Banks and Ripley. And they start to have an actual match. And this is when the crowd really got into things between these two. Banks hit the Meteora. Ripley kicked out of that. Then Banks came off the top with a boot. And this is when Ripley has her submission applied. Does she have a name for the submission yet? I've not heard
I've
them
not
identify
caught one, no.
Yeah, they did, but I'm blanking on it now.
Cassius Ohno has broken down like the origins of this submission, but I don't think it has an official name yet. Candice LeRae and Io Shirai return. They pull Ripley to the floor and reveal they were fine. It was all a plan, and all of a sudden it's 3-on-1. Banks falls to the numbers game, takes a springboard drop kick from Shirai that looked great into the Riptide, and Ripley pins Sasha Banks, and the three women survive. NXT wins. I really thought the strength was the final couple of minutes here, but I wasn't overwhelmed by this match.
This exceeded expectations for me. I was expecting just roll up, and I thought they let everyone get their stuff in. From following NXT every week, I hated that it was Io and Candice being the two.
That made me so mad.
To be sort of cheating, because like Io and Candice have had this feud, which is still ongoing.
Yeah, I didn't like them friends.
And Candice is a babyface. Io's a heel, so that's fine. I'd have had Io and Bianca do this if you were going to do this spot.
Even that would have been odd because, I mean, I understand the explanation that everybody's on the same side for this particular episode. I wasn't a fan of that spot at all because I thought it made Rhea Ripley into a heel. And that's not what you want for that reaction.
Yeah.
By the end, they did a great job of making Sasha feel like, you know, the mainstream threat to this indie darling and Rhea Ripley that, you know, you had to stop. And I think by throwing the extra numbers from NXT against Sasha Banks, you kind of ruined that wonderful dynamic that you had set. So I was not a fan of that either.
I agree, yeah. Especially, you're healing the baby faces against a heel.
I understand the need to, like, protect Sasha Banks with, you know, illegitimate victory, but I thought there would have been ways to do that outside of having, you know, especially Candice LeRae come in to play a distracting heel to let Io Shirai get the victory.
Yeah, it was weird.
I thought also SmackDown really suffered from not having that top babyface on SmackDown. Like Nikki Cross was not put into that role, and Sasha by default kind of became, you know, she played the heel turning on Natalya, but by the end it's like she's outnumbered by NXT, and you're forced to have sympathy for Sasha.
And that was the problem with the spot. But there's no problem at all by making Sasha Banks the top heel because she was fantastic as the heel in the match, and Rhea Ripley was great as the babyface. I liked the match a lot, man. I thought, like Davey, it ran the risk of being too long with too many like frivolous eliminations. And I don't think it was that. I was entertained throughout this entire thing. I loved the fresh pairings of like it's interesting because like I haven't felt like so strong about Survivor Series matches in a long time because we haven't had fresh combinations of matches in a long time. Typically with the Survivor Series, it's like I've seen these two guys together in the ring. I've never seen this NXT person with this other NXT person. And every time you had a new group of three in there, it felt like a new dream match scenario that you were getting. So I thoroughly enjoyed a lot of it. I loved what they did with Io and Kairi. I loved what they did with Charlotte and Asuka. I even liked how they had Sasha team up with Natalya to take on the two remaining NXT people. I thought it all worked out really well.
I would say that the thing that where they came back and had to interfere, like if they maybe had changed that around, it would have they could have just had a good match the way they did, and it would have because the ending did get me back into it, but it was that weird like Io Shirai is my favorite, and you just if you wanted to protect her, not eliminating. I don't know what the reason was for that, but it's just odd.
It did go 27 minutes and 49 seconds, so they had a lot of time for this match.
And Rhea Ripley, by the end of this weekend, in 1 week, she went somewhat. I mean, she was on equal footing with Becky Lynch. She pinned Charlotte, pinned Sasha Banks, and won a War Games match with her team.
She pinned Shayna Baszler.
Tapped Shayna Baszler out.
Yeah.
So, sorry, pinned Shayna Baszler.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're strapping the rocket to her, and I've seen some criticism online over this about how they're, you know, risking making her like into a Roman Reigns. But look at the reaction she had tonight. In 1 week, I mean, really in the span of a couple weeks, but especially this week, they turned her into one of the biggest stars in the company. So I don't get mad at that booking.
No, I think they're doing completely right by her.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm loving it.
Big fan.
I felt from this whole weekend, there's a couple of people you could say that about.
She's gonna beat Shayna for the title in NXT, definitely.
I mean, granted, this is not like official. Like we always talk about the concern of that you take someone from NXT, put them on the main roster. Are they just going to become another guy, another woman on the roster? And this past month, I think you can make solid arguments that they have taken certain NXT performers and they are that much more over now after this past month. I think there's several of them that are bigger stars today than they were a month ago.
Yes,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Seth Rollins met with Kevin Owens in the locker room to talk about last night. What happened last night? And he asked him about him helping NXT at TakeOver and where does your loyalty lie? And Owens said Saturday was about me getting even with the Undisputed Era and not necessarily helping NXT. He loves NXT, but they don't need him. Raw desperately needs me, which, God, is that the truth? And not to worry, he is Team Raw tonight, and he reminds Rollins about his own history. And to give him a reminder, he asked him, you care to partake in a live fisting? And Rollins neglected to partake in this. And yeah, this seems to silence any thought of Kevin Owens going to NXT, that he is sticking around on Raw. And I think when you look at their depth of baby faces, he is not a babyface they can afford to send off to NXT at this point. I think he's kind of needed on Raw at this point. This is not a very deep babyface roster once you get beyond Rollins and Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, I loved how honest he was here. He's like, look, Raw's going to shit right now. I'm going to try my best to help this brand.
Is it curious why they chose Kevin Owens of anybody they might have been able to choose for that fourth man at War Games?
Huge pop. Great match you got out of it. There's a history with them. I think it was... I mean, I can't make a solid argument for anyone else on the main roster that, you knew was going to get a really big... That would be at the level of a surprise that people would be satisfied with. So...
And
I was
far
fine
enough
with it.
removed from NXT that it is a pop. If you just had Ricochet, it's like, we saw you in NXT a couple of months ago.
I don't disagree with any of it. I just found it a little bit confusing how you would have, Owens lean so hard towards Team NXT only to have it kind of that little tease be extinguished the way it was.
It was
tonight.
awkward. It was almost... This segment was designed to make you forget about the night before, not remember it.
It almost teased like they were telling a fuller story with Kevin Owens and his allegiance to Raw and Smack, and we didn't really get a conclusion to that at all.
Maybe, but
Well,
it might
something could continue.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue. There's theories.
Like, you have to imagine that after this and the number that they pulled on Wednesday, that do they want to, like, the doors aren't open, but they're going to be left ajar.
Right.
And you can have these kind of floaters that could pop up, because I feel that if their audience goes down after this invasion on Wednesdays, that they're going to want to revisit this. It's okay. It's a marathon, but sometimes we got to speed up because we got a lot of ground to cover. AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Roderick Strong. How anticipated, or how much were you guys anticipating this one?
Yeah, this was my one.
Very
this was the
much.
one. This was the draw, baby. Roderick Strong, he's my man. That's why I'm wearing this armband.
Because this was really interesting, because I think in this setting, I think that they really had to work for this crowd, whereas had this happened 24 hours earlier, I think this is probably match of the weekend.
Absolutely.
In front of it. And I really enjoyed this match. I thought these guys worked a fantastic three-way. We have Sami Zayn at ringside, and they were just going through different three-way, sequences throughout, and the crowd not really alive for too much of this. Strong hit Styles with a monkey flip, and Styles landed on his feet and got drilled with a flying knee from Nakamura. Styles then caught Nakamura with an Ushigoroshi for a 2 count, and Styles was constantly going for the Styles Clash and getting stopped when he would try this. Styles prevented Nakamura from using the Kinshasa, so Zayn then attacked Styles, throwing him into the post. Strong got this big near fall after landing a flying knee on Nakamura. The CM Punk chants began as Nakamura called for the Kinshasa and got cut off with a flying forearm from Styles. And then we get into Nakamura hitting Strong with the Kinshasa. Styles broke that up. And in the final series of sequences, Nakamura and Styles face off. They have a big battle with strikes, and Nakamura hits the unnamed landslide. And Styles then avoided the Kinshasa, failed to use the Styles Clash, and sets up for the phenomenal forearm, hits it, and then Roderick Strong tosses AJ to the floor and steals the cover on Nakamura. Ooh. 16 minutes, 46 seconds. I would say, especially after NXT won the elimination match, this was probably not an outcome too many people were forecasting for Roderick to win this one.
One of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Roderick Strong. I've seen him battle AJ Styles. I've seen him battle Nakamura. I was front row at Ring of Honor. Nakamura threw Roderick Strong into me one time in a match. True story. And this was the match I was most looking forward to. This was almost like a weird dream match, and I absolutely loved this. I was jumping out of my seat because I just
You were the one.
I was yeah, not in Chicago. I was just super excited to kind of see like almost like a tear in the eye of Roderick Strong.
This was a huge.
This is a
thing
big
for
deal
him.
for this
Yeah.
guy. I've been following him in high school gyms and stuff for a long time, and of course I've been watching him in NXT with the success he has. But it didn't have all that success. He was the dad for a while. He still is, but seeing this was just like cool to see as a fan. Like you could see there was a twinkle in his eye. You could see he was taking in the moment.
In all those NXT guys.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They were like, wow, this is what this is all about. This is crazy. And no one thought Roderick Strong was going to win this match. So Camp Strong, baby.
It was a great, like, surprising ending. And I thought these three, like, they worked like a really great match. I think it was just the crowd didn't, to me, elevate this to a higher level.
I thought the lack of crowd reaction might have come with the lack of a baby face in this match. You had 3 heels from all 3 brands, and granted, I think NXT were sort of the de facto baby faces, but Roderick Strong is beloved, but not beloved to the extent that I think he would turn an entire crowd, much of which might not be that familiar with NXT, towards him and only him as, you know, the underdog in the whole match. There was no underdog in this match.
That's one of the things I wonder with this sort of crowd, because it's very hard to watch this when we watch NXT all the time because
Right.
we're educated with that. There are a lot of people that just watch WWE main roster.
Now, the NXT fans were really loud, and they probably got everybody, you know, at least interested, but this might have been one of those matches where
Exactly.
it didn't work.
For me, I Shinsuke Nakamura just hasn't hit really since that first match against Sami Zayn. I don't think he's had that magic. But every time I see him and I hear, oh, it's going to be him in this kind of match, you hope, you want to see that magic again.
Yeah.
And I felt that last year with Survivor Series when he faced Seth Rollins. You go, okay, this is the match. If we're going to see that, it should be against this guy. And we didn't really. And I think this was as close as we're going to get to that,
Yeah.
which I loved. He wasn't holding back at all. Poor AJ took quite a few
Did he never?
knees in the face. There was the moment he hits the... I think Roddy was on AJ's shoulders and he hit like the boot off the top rope to Roddy, but also knees AJ in the face as doing it.
Yeah.
And AJ took some stiff strikes, but I really enjoyed the match. I think the crowd kind of...
They got into it.
They did towards the end, but
All
they
these
kind
guys.
of hold off for me it being like a really, really special match, which maybe it would have the night before.
There was also running the risk, like even at this point in the match, of 3-way fatigue. Like, these kinds of matches, like they wear thin. It's fine to have one on a card, but you know, you watch some of these matches and it's like, you know, AJ and Roderick, still 2 heels. I think they overcome that no problem. And it's just, you know, you're seeing the constant, you know, saves being made, pinfalls being broken up, and you kind of have to adapt it knowing that there's so many of those 3-ways on this show.
I thought I would have felt it a lot more than I did.
I agree. It wasn't, to me, overwhelming.
No.
Yeah. So from there, we get a singles match. Adam Cole, Pete Dunne for the NXT title. Cole's got his ribs all taped up from the War Games match. Dunne has his left knee wrapped. And Dunne is going after the right elbow. They're each going after the injured body parts. And Dunne cuts off Cole with an X-Plex and then goes for a moonsault off the second turnbuckle to the floor and hits it. Cole then later gets his knees up in the ring and responds with a last shot for a 2 count. Dunne recovered from the Ushigoroshi, hit the bitter end, and that was our first big near fall of the match. Dunne then scales the turnbuckle, and he goes to do a moonsault off the top and gets hit with a super kick. And this was where the crowd went into the next gear for this match, because that was a great spot, and the replay looked just as tight. It was great how this looked. The two then went to the edge of the apron, where Cole came off the turnbuckle with a Panama Sunrise, and both just die on the floor.
But don't you dare do a package
Don't
pile
you
driver.
dare.
No.
Flipping pile driver on the apron, the hardest part of the ring, that's fine.
Dunne beat the count, but was immediately hit with the super kick and kicked out again. Cole then tries to prevent Dunne from reinserting his mouth guard, and in trying to do so, gives up his hand, and Dunne snaps the fingers, goes for another bitter end, which gets turned into a follow-up Panama Sunrise, and the last shot, 14 minutes, 2 seconds. Adam Cole retains. Tremendous match. You could certainly, this would probably be many people's match of the night. I think you could go 1 or 2 on this.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed this match. The crowd, again, like they were kind of, they kind of were like, oh, we don't really know who these people are, but we're going to cheer. And then they got more into it. If you were to have pushed, I thought like for some reason Adam Cole wasn't going to be able to compete. So they were going to push this match to USA. In fact, they could do a rematch or whatever, because this, I feel like with the Full Sail crowd, would have made it feel like even more special than it was. And Adam Cole doesn't use the Ushigoroshi. He calls what I call the suplex lift into the Ushigoroshi, or as I like to call it, the Sushi Goroshi, the greatest wrestling move ever. And Pete Dunne sold it like he died. It looked amazing. I really like this match. So much fun. And we watch. Pete Dunne's been on NXT USA, and he's not kind of had that stride as he had in last time we saw him in this very arena with Tyler Bate. Something's been missing from him. So this was kind of cool to see him have that spot with Cole, but Cole's still the champion.
Certainly, I think, this and all of these matches might have had a better reaction in front of a Full Sail crowd. But let's not lose sight of what this is for NXT. This whole show, this whole month has been a commercial for NXT to try to get new viewers to try to watch on Wednesdays. And as such, I thought these two having zero WWE involvement needed to have the type of match that would attract a fan who might have not ever seen NXT before. And I thought these two did that. They delivered, I think, a match good on psychology, but taking being mindful of the injuries that the two of them had the night prior, as well, full of very exciting, incredible moves that I think were enough to even capture the attention of somebody who didn't really give a shit about who these two were. But as I will have to say, how long was this match, John?
14.
I think I would have gone about 4 less. I think 10 minutes would have been more than fine to whet the appetites of a casual fan base, and for these guys to deliver, I think, a high-quality match. As it existed, to me, it lasted a little bit too long.
I love this match. This was my match of the night. I find Pete Dunne such an interesting character within WWE because he just floats around and kind of disappears for a bit, and then you want a really hot show-stealing match, you put Pete Dunne out there. And we've seen that with the North American title picture in NXT. We've seen that with the UK Championship and now with the NXT Championship. I'd love to just see him stay in this position and not be fixed, because you want two guys who are going to put on a fantastic showcase. These are two of the guys you're going to call. And I think NXT definitely won some viewers over.
It's just Pete Dunne traveling around different promotions, breaking fingers. Just breaking fingers everywhere.
So this one got. I was a big fan of this match. I thought it did very well, and I thought the crowd was a positive in this.
They
one.
woke
I
up.
thought they were
sure.
really into this a lot, and I'm expecting Adam Cole to walk out on Wednesday in Full Sail and tell the whole crowd, so guys, as NXT champion, there's something called the 30-day rule, and I'm not wrestling for 30 days.
Oh, we forgot to mention in the Roderick Strong match, his entrance got cut off before the boom.
I was so mad.
So everyone in Undisputed Era, when they do their full pose, when the entrance music is playing, they all got a certain pose. In fact, there's 4 of us in post wrestling. We somehow have to figure out which person is which and do the pose sometime, some way. So they cut Roddy, and the Twitter was really upset. So they did not cut off. You cannot cut off Adam Cole's boom.
They did, though. They cut away to
really
War
quick.
Games.
Yeah.
They cut away to a replay of him and Ciampa going through the tables.
That's bad.
It's come on. The
gotta
boom
be
is
like
so
Minoru
over.
Suzuki and you screw up.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's bad. And I think you have to remember, this is probably a different production crew
Yeah.
that might be doing
You
some
don't
of
even
this
know
stuff.
the boom? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Baby.
You saw Roddy just laugh it off. He was slapping the mat, ready to go, and then it's AJ Styles.
For the
All
record,
right.
I would be the one slapping the mat. I want to be Roddy, even though I'm not a dad, as far as I'm aware of.
Prior to that match, we did get this backstage deal with The Miz speaking to Daniel Bryan and saying he has to stop the Fiend for the sake of our families. And Bryan told him to go fuck off. And that was The Miz's involvement at the Survivor Series. The Fiend and Daniel Bryan for the Universal title, accompanied by the red lighting that my Twitter feed loved. Everyone was a big fan of this. They were like, yes, the red lights.
I thought it'd be blue now. He changed the title to blue. Why can't it be
you would
blue?
think it's not really brand specific.
Those blue lights.
Bryan just comes at him with the drop kicks and then gets cut off, and the Fiend is in control. Bryan then escaped and went for a suicide dive and got caught, but avoided Sister Abigail. And he fought off the Fiend, came off the top with a crossbody, and Bryan really got this audience behind him. He's attacking with the yes kicks, blasted him with multiple kicks to the head, to the body, and then does the stomp onto him, and then builds up to the yes chant. Everyone is chanting yes, and he hits the flying knee, and Bray kicks out of it. They're chanting for Daniel Bryan. I was stunned. This was the hottest we've heard the crowd all night, and this is with all the limitations that come with the Fiend's match presentation. Bray stops him on the turnbuckle with the mandible claw, but Bryan fell back into the Suzuki armbar and then was free of the claw, came off the top into a right hand. The Sister Abigail gets rolled up by Bryan with the counter and then runs right into the mandible claw and gets pinned in 10 minutes. So the Fiend retains the title. Not a surprising outcome, but I will say this match overachieved for what I was looking going into this, which was not much. I thought this will be somewhere between bad and forgettable, and I thought it was better than that. And this crowd, they got into this. You can't say that this was a crowd that checked out because of the lighting or because of the Fiend.
I definitely think this was the best match the Fiend has had in his short run, and I think Bryan did really well. He's a better babyface than Seth Rollins is, so it's that part isn't that big of a surprise. But I also think they didn't go overboard this time with the Fiend's no-selling. All the moves that the Fiend kicked out of were things like the yes kicks, which weren't legitimate finishers, and things like that Bryan actually did that were legitimate finishers actually put the Fiend down at least for 2. So I don't think they went overboard with it this time. The fact that this stayed in the ring without any obstruction in the form of a falls count anywhere match or the giant cage in
Electricity.
front of or any of that, and especially no giant steel cage in front of it, I think helped the viewer focus on it a lot better. Also, the audience knowing what to expect, I think maybe primed them for it a bit more. So it was not a great match. Let's not get it twisted, but it was certainly a better match than I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, I remember their Royal Rumble match all those years ago, so I knew that they still had it in them. But
this was not that.
No, it wasn't. I have to say, I boycott these red lights. For the first few minutes of this match, I was making some gyoza dumplings. I was having a good time. I came back in and I got back into it, especially with the kicks, but the crowd got so into the yes chants, it was insane. But I could barely see the crowd because it's so red. I really do not like it. Just takes me so out of it as a viewer. It just makes me so upset. I can't really get into these matches as much. It's literally because of the lights.
I think they still have the residual effects of all those kickouts from the stomp that personally, like I can't get into any near falls on the Fiend after that, and that's going to take some time. I think that was just horrible ideas.
I don't see how you go back from that. And it's inevitably going to probably be Roman Reigns after 10 spears who finally
10
pins him, and I don't think that's going to help anyone. The Fiend is such a cool look and character. I just don't know how it really works in wrestling because I can't see anyone beating this guy.
It's not a scary movie.
That being said, I was pleasantly surprised by this match. I think it's actually been quite clever since Daniel Bryan's turned babyface, he's kind of still been refusing to do the yes thing, because I think that got the crowd really involved today when he finally did it, because he hasn't done that for, over a year now, since he initially turned heel, Survivor Series last year. So
he's recycled it.
Yeah. There we go. But yeah, I quite enjoyed the match, but didn't see Daniel Bryan winning, and I just don't see where you go with this Fiend character.
This felt like the close to the feud. I don't know how you follow up on this. I don't know what is next now for Bray. You have TLC coming up.
I don't want we love horror movies. I love scary movies, and they're kind of building him. They need to build him less like Jason Voorhees and more like Michael Myers. Jason can do all these supernatural things and teleport and beats the odds always because he's like a ghost and supernatural. Whereas the Shape, Michael Myers, he's more of a guy. And you know what? You shoot him a few more times, maybe he'll stay down. So that's kind of more like it. I don't need to see him kind of do the silliness because. I can't see any of it because of the red lights, but that's my take on that match. I like Daniel Bryan, though.
Maybe like the opening of Halloween, we could just watch the match from Bray Wyatt's perspective.
Yeah, the POV, the original. Yeah, exactly. Do it like that.
Then we had Sarah Schreiber in the back with Rey Mysterio, who says it's been 15 years since he last fought Brock Lesnar. Lesnar has never changed, but this is a new Rey Mysterio as he shows off the pipe. He's gone to Home Hardware since 15 years ago. He's going to do things to Lesnar the old Rey would have never done. He's evolved because of the love of his son, and usually in these situations, he would tell Dominic to look away. But tonight, look close, and look at how closely I'm going to swing this at Brock's legs and take them out one by one.
Oh, my God. Let the boy watch.
He says he's going to massacre Brock and take away his title. Bitch. I think Ray's been awesome on promos this
I love
year.
Rey Mysterio. He's one of the best, and I was all for this match, actually.
This was one of the matches I was most looking forward to.
I think this is one of the better built title matches
Absolutely.
they've done in a long time. I think they really tapped into something with these two, especially with Rey. But prior to that, it was our men's elimination match. Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, and Ricochet representing Raw against Roman Reigns, King Corbin, Mustafa Ali, Shorty G, and Braun Strowman on SmackDown, and Team NXT's Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, Walter, Damian Priest, and Matt Riddle. And this was very much like that Survivor Series in 2006 where you have all the stars in the ring and they all started chanting for CM Punk. There were no Punk chants at the beginning because they were all chanting for Walter, who was an enormous star to this crowd.
You could see the smile on Walter's face, and I don't know if I've ever seen Walter smile. So that was like,
you know what? He was
awesome.
looking good too. He got his hair cut. He was looking fresh. This was crazy. We watched these guys kind of in really smaller atmospheres, and now he's walking out here going, "Wow, this is
to be in a
Survivor
ring
Series."
with Roman Reigns and Randy Orton and Seth Rollins and have the crowd focus on you. Like that's got to be a trip for him.
Isn't it weird that I instantly was like, "Wait, Walter and Roman Reigns are in the same match?"
Yeah,
because
just
I kind of
bizarre.
want to see that. Right? I was down.
I had several of those moments like during this match.
So
Like,
many
I'm seeing
matches.
This and this and
Wait,
this.
I can see them fight now because that's
Yeah.
what this is what that used to be, and it was refreshing. But these are these NXT guys on this team. They're kind of like put this weird banded together kind of makeshift team. But Walter is the NXT UK champion. He has.
We'll get there, Braden. We will get there.
Okay, all right.
But like, just to kind of like talk more about like sort of that whole dream match thing.
Yeah.
Like because NXT has such close ties to the independent wrestling scene, and because so many of these guys are relative, like Keith Lee to me is still relatively fresh from like
Yes.
the PWG. You're seeing him in a ring with like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns.
Randy
and you're like-
Orton.
You're like, holy shit! It's
Matt
like what
Riddle
about
and Randy
proper
Orton.
WWE guys.
This is weird.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's bizarre.
Matt Riddle and Randy Orton could have wrestled in this. Well, they almost did, kind of. It was so many different cross things going on that you were like, whoa.
Yeah. Whereas, like, if Keith Lee had, say, been called up on SmackDown and, after like a year of like mingling back and forth, it feels far less special.
Yeah.
These guys still feel fresh.
So the man, I would just love to be a fly on the wall if Vince McMahon met Walter for the first time today. It's like, oh my God, look at this guy.
Wow.
Doesn't even have a last name that I have to take away. This guy. Oh my God.
No, he'd just be Walt.
Walt. So Walt and Drew started off, and they just go into chops right away, which was, playing to Walter's strengths right off the bat, and drops McIntyre with a boot. And then Walter attacks Strowman and drop kicks him into the corner, and then gets hit with a Claymore out of nowhere. And McIntyre eliminates the NXT UK champion that the whole crowd had been chanting for moments prior. 3 minutes this dude lasts. And the crowd gave their very nuanced reaction by chanting bullshit.
This sucks. Yeah, I mean, this is, of course, coming from a crowd that is familiar with Walter, at least the very vocal part of this crowd. And knowing how Walter's been booked throughout his entire wrestling career in every promotion that he's been in. Seeing him get eliminated.
This is like the story of OTT. Over the
last,
last, exactly. Dude, who can beat Walter?
I hope David Starr wasn't watching this match because goddamn Drew McIntyre, like
fucking Claymore,
in 30 seconds. Yes, they tried to give him as much shine as they possibly could have, but it was not. This was Walter's somebody that is deserving of protection. If you're going to do an injury angle or a count out or something, you put it to Walter.
He's not being pinned in WWE, as far as I'm aware.
No.
I think they truly underestimated Walter's reaction on this particular
There's going to be the argument. It's like, oh, but look at the exposure he got. It's like, man, you just presented your NXT UK champion getting pinned in 3 minutes. And
there's no doubt they look at UK as a sub brand, judging by the way they were booked on.
If this was the
SmackDown and
reason,
Raw.
this guy didn't belong within 1,000 feet of this match.
It's so weird. So
You can make that argument.
he's the NXT UK champion. He's had what some people consider match of the year with Tyler Bate at the NXT UK takeover just recently, a few months back. And here he is. Everyone goes insane. He hits a few big spots in this match, and then he's taken out. And I feel like I felt robbed. I was pretty excited and taken aback when they said he was going to be in this match. He gets in the match for 3 minutes and he's taken out. I felt literally as a fan robbed out. Like literally, this is why people get mad at this kind of stuff, because I felt but I'm paying to see this, and all right, cool.
Well, I thought he'd be the guy that, like they had with Strowman a few years ago. It's they gang up, put him through the table, just
Didn't even
get
do
him
that.
counted out or
Nope.
whatever. It
Claymore.
was just kick to the face.
Claymore. I'm upset. Okay, yeah, he should be protected. Just looking at him, he looks like a star. You look at any wrestling fan, I think they look at him and they go, "Wow, he's big. He chops people.
If you look at the other NXT UK sort of counterpart on the women's team, Toni Storm, I think this is how they were booking Walter.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, we'll throw a bone to somebody over on the other side of the ocean just to appear on this, but we're not going to book him till the end.
That sucks.
Unfortunately, this was Walter, who I think if you're a UK fan or somebody who's watched Walter, people expect a lot more from.
For more on this, the British Wrestling Experience will be releasing the show on Friday, and I'm sure they will get more than 3 minutes of content out of this finish. Shorty G and Ricochet had a really great sequence together, ending with the Chaos Theory. Unfortunately, it's like, man, just like whet your appetite, and then we moved on. Riddle was in, the crowd was into him.
Riddle and Gable were excellent together.
They traded the ankle locks,
doing a bunch of amateur wrestling stuff.
I was into this.
Oh, this was great.
But then Owens just got tagged. He got to the top, got to choose who he frog splashes. He chose Gable and pinned him. So Gable was gone.
So that was done as a minor tease,
Yes.
of where his allegiance lay. Was he,
He
going
didn't attack.
Was he going to frog splash the NXT guy or the SmackDown guy?
It was
He
glossed
chose
over too much, I think. I think they could have highlighted that moment a bit more because I believe he was eliminated straight
That was
after,
the only
wasn't he?
thing. I thought they were going to.
Owens was like on the floor right after, climbed back in, draping DDT, and Ciampa, his teammate the night prior, pins Owens.
Yes. So you could still go off this that he's still joining NXT but pissed off at Ciampa or something.
And they
along those lines.
could go with something maybe where he shows up for a few weeks on NXT and you don't know where he's going before ultimately ending it like he's back on Raw.
It's kind of a twist because last night Ciampa handpicked Kevin Owens to join his team and helped lead him to victory in War Games. And then all of a sudden, Ciampa turns on him here, and the crowd reacted, and his whole Team NXT looked like sells it and is like, "What?" And Ciampa does his classic like clapping of his hands.
Yeah.
I'm smart.
I used you.
Yeah, look, you helped me, but you helped me again.
The five of them did this awesome promo afterwards on WWE.com after winning the match, and you have, man, it's like Owens, like you could tell, like this was probably like a top 5 moment of his career was this War Games match, and he was just so thankful to be part of it. Then you have Dijakovic, who was as emotional as Donovan Dijakovic can get, Dominic Dijakovic. And then Ciampa talks about being out with his neck surgery. He's back. It was his daughter was in the crowd, I think, with his wife.
Wow.
And then I think it's his dad. It was his dad's birthday on top of it.
70.
And Keith Lee is like in near tears that he debuted for NXT in this building. It was just such an awesome interview.
Crazy.
From these. And it just probably right off the top of their head, just literally reacting in real time to that match. It was worth checking out if you didn't see it. So we continue here. It's just a procession of eliminations. Orton and Ciampa were in together after teasing that for a bit on TV.
Teasing a lot of draping DDTs between the two.
Draping DDTs. You can't drape DDT Randy Orton. Do you know how many years of doing this to John Cena he's done?
They also had a bit of a standoff, as if they're trying to draw some type of
You know why though?
connection.
Their Twitter beef.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There was, yes.
What's the Twitter beef?
So Randy has been doing this thing where he just loves to tweet The Rock and say, "Hey, we should fight because I want that WrestleMania match." So Ciampa was like, "Screw that, Randy Orton, I want to fight you at WrestleMania." So he's been pushing that, retweeting like fan-made match cards for WrestleMania, Ciampa, Randy Orton, and they paid that off here with the standoff, the walking in circles,
Interesting.
the Western stare down here between the two. I liked this a lot, actually.
Yeah, I think Randy Orton's going to stick to fellow wrestlers that he gets into Twitter wars with.
Good idea. Good idea, Randy.
Not go higher. Yeah. So Damian Priest gets involved here as Orton is in there as well, and he goes for the Reckoning and gets countered into the RKO, and Damian Priest.
That's another move. You can't hit Randy with a cutter. It's essentially a rolling like cutter, and Randy hits him with the RKO. He's like, no. That's not how you do these moves.
Is it the Crossroads?
It's the Crossroads. Yeah.
Okay.
The
So,
Reckoning.
of course he would have that.
The
scattered.
Cross Reckoning.
Ooh.
Riddle immediately comes in, blocks the RKO, and rolls up Randy for the next elimination. So Riddle gets that, but then Orton hits Riddle with the RKO, and Baron Corbin pins Matt Riddle.
I thought this was perfect because you get the surprise pin for Riddle over Randy. Riddle doesn't look weak getting pinned because he gets RKO'd by an illegal man, and Corbin, being the shitty heel he is, just runs in and gets the pin.
So shitty.
I agree with
like
you.
this a
I
lot.
thought it worked out for everybody.
And got the heat it should have got as well from the crowd.
It's weird. I've never thought that I've wanted to see more Randy Orton versus Matt Riddle. But
I think
here
that was my
too.
negative, is that all these things you tease, there's no payoff to it immediately.
The Royal Rumble, baby.
How much
do
can you
think
do,
is-
though?
Yeah.
How much can you do in this match? I mean,
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just, to me, these were just like pinfalls, and it was just trying to get clever ways to get guys out. And
if they were clever, then what's the point?
Well, I think it's just self-contained, so I'm not going to overly praise it because there's no payoff to it. I'm not saying it was bad.
I
It was
wonder
just-
how much.
There were just a lot of eliminations here. I greatly preferred the second half of this match to the first because they just had to get through so much. Strowman came in, he did his deal running around, and then runs into Keith Lee, and both go down on the floor from a crossbody, and then the dreaded Claymore, the most lethal finish in the game, takes out Braun, and he is given a count-out elimination. So Braun gets the protection.
So we
here.
have countouts now just for this moment
Braun
in
rule,
this
yes.
match.
I didn't really understand that. I mean, because for the longest time, in 3 ways, there are no DQs and no countouts. But I suppose the argument is that if somebody were to leave the ring, eventually they would be eliminated. There has been precedent for that.
Yeah, in
Survivor
older
Series.
matches, but also this guy's not. Braun's not a champion. Why couldn't you protect Walter like that?
Oh, dude, in the pecking order in the WWE, it's like, if you main event WWE, superstar, and then it's NXT UK all the way
Yeah.
down to the bottom, right?
Yeah, you had to protect Tyson Fury's win, too. I mean, come on. This is the guy who just beat Braun. Ricochet hit a Fosbury flop, climbs to the top, lands on his feet from a 450 into an end of days. Baron Corbin eliminates Ricochet. And then Ali's in. He gets a big response from Chicago. Corbin yanks Ali down to the floor, his partner, and slaps him, returns to the ring right into a stomp, and Seth pins Ali. So there goes our... let's wait till Sunday to see what they do with Ali in Chicago
It was
after
so
beating him on
disappointing.
Friday.
And yes, I understand you could possibly go to Baron Corbin versus Ali after this, because Corbin was the one, of course, who pinned Ali. But you're never gonna get this Chicago crowd this hot for Mustafa Ali for a long, long time, if ever. This was the weekend, I think, for you to do something big. Granted, though, how long could Ali have gone into this match knowing what they were going to do in the finish with the final 2?
I mean, I would have. To me, as I'm trying, this is a rebuilding process on this main roster. Ali's going to the end with Roman. I'm tagging him with Roman at the end, and those are the 2 survivors.
But how do you do what they ended up doing with the one-on-one at the end?
I would have sacrificed the one-on-one at the end with Reigns and Keith Lee.
I thought it was better what they did with Keith Lee. But
I'm not arguing it.
That said, Ali should have won on Friday for sure. There's no reason why he needed to lose that.
So he's out, and Reigns was pissed off with Corbin. The CM Punk chants got very loud at this point. Reigns then eliminates Drew McIntyre after a spear. Rollins is alone on Team Raw, and then Reigns avoids the fairy tale ending, hits Ciampa with a Superman punch. Corbin comes in, but then Reigns just takes out Corbin with a Superman punch and a spear, so Ciampa eliminates Corbin. So Reigns has gotten rid of his partner. Reigns and Rollins work together against Ciampa and Lee. They went for the Shield powerbomb to Ciampa, but Lee stops them with a tackle, and then Ciampa hits the knee strike. Project Ciampa. Rollins kicks out of that. Fairy tale ending is stopped, and then Rollins finally hits Ciampa with the stomp and eliminates him. You could call it the Stompa. And then it's down to Rollins, Reigns, and Keith Lee. Lee kicks out from a frog splash, caught Rollins with the jackhammer, and Keith Lee pins Seth Rollins. A huge elimination for Keith Lee. So it's down to Lee and Roman Reigns. So if you had any confusion about what they saw in Keith Lee, this is the guy, they see this guy as the top guy on NXT. This was so clear, and he has not been positioned as the top guy on NXT, but what a portrayal that they gave him here. And he goes toe-to-toe with Reigns. Reigns hits a pair of Superman punches. Lee kicks out, although it seemed he kicked out late here.
No, it looked like he kicked out, but the count.
It's controversial, and that worked out perfectly for what they were trying to do.
They showed the angle that was going to be sympathetic to Keith Lee because they didn't show it close up, but Graves was calling it like late immediately.
But the fact that there was even controversy attached to it suggests that, these 2 were on par. You know what I mean?
I don't know. It's weird. As someone who was at WrestleMania this year, the main event with the pinning thing, can't we just hey, look, guys, spoilers, but this is predetermined. Can we just get a little? Can we just say, yo, I'm hitting this move today. Count it. Done. Can we just not do that right before the match?
You mean you want the referee not to count?
Yeah, no, count, but should maybe do the refs not why is this happening more in wrestling than it kind of was?
Well, I'm on the other side. This is on the guys. They got to kick out. Okay. There's nothing that looks worse. Like with Paul Turner this week, where he's got to hold up, and it's like, Like that's just the worst. It's like the guy you've got to kick out, and the referee's going to be counting, and if not, that's on you.
Well, I thought he did kick out in
thought so
time.
too.
It was just his momentum carried the hand down.
The
So
replay didn't make it.
He did
evident.
hit the 3, but he hit the 3 after the shoulder went up, so he didn't call it.
But this type of controversy is what I love about sports, and to me that this moment felt real because we're debating it.
True,
like it
yeah,
was a
you
real
get that in
sport.
every real
Keith
sport.
Lee
don't
kicked
you?
out. Greedo shot first. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So after that, Reigns kicks out of a spirit bomb, and then Lee misses with a moonsault, and Reigns hits the spear, pinning Keith Lee at 29 minutes and 16 seconds. Reigns is the sole survivor. Despite all the eliminations, I thought this match was great. I thought there was so much talent in this. You had just such a great mix. The NXT guys were such a great compliment to it, and I thought most of them came off as big stars, and I had no issue with like Reigns. I think Reigns needed like a big win here, as did SmackDown on this show, so they got it, and I thought this really made Keith Lee. So as much as I think that Ali was kind of a missed opportunity here, you're right in the sense that Keith Lee is the bigger priority than Ali on this night. So I thought this was excellent. I thought this was, to me, like a contender for match of the night.
This was my personal match.
Yeah,
of the
I
night.
think you could go with this over Dunn and Cole.
I'll be the first to admit I thought 15 eliminations per every match would have been too much. I thought these matches like went through without any boredom at all.
Yeah.
I thought this match was just thoroughly entertaining. I loved the same combinations that the same thing with the women's match. All these dream match scenarios. I thought Shorty G looked really good in there with Ricochet and Matt
Not
Riddle.
actually looking good. His attire is
He looked
not
terrible,
good. Yeah,
but his wrestling was fantastic.
Fucking shit.
I thought they gave so much to Tommaso Ciampa and so much to Keith Lee, being booked to be on par with guys like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. I also loved how Seth Rollins played your de facto heel here, much in the way Sasha Banks did in the women's match. But you can't find a better heel right now than Seth Rollins going up against your indie darlings. You know what I
Turn
mean?
'em.
Like this crowd was fully on board with booing Seth Rollins, and I thought they used that heat to their advantage. So
you either live long enough. You die a hero or live long enough to become the villain? That's Seth Rollins. He needs to become the villain again, I guess. Because this match was a lot of fun. I honestly was taken aback with the Walter thing in the beginning. It kind of broke my heart just a tiny bit. But it was still cool to see all the mismatch here. And yeah, Keith Lee, if you've been watching NXT week to week, he's the I call Keith Lee kind of the ace in the sleeve of Triple H. He's had Keith Lee here for a little while, but he knows that he's had him. And since being on USA, we've seen these Dijakovic matches and such. And
Those
now,
two have benefited probably the most
Yeah.
from the 2 hours.
Exactly. They're like, hey, guys, go out there for 25 minutes and just do whatever and do some crazy stuff. And they've been doing it. And Keith Lee looked like a crazy star here. He's the real deal. He's a future world champion in WWE.
I really enjoyed this match. The only mark on it is that Walter thing, which did suck the energy out for a little bit, but they definitely got me back. I found
Should have been Joe Coffey in this role. Put one of those Gallus guys in here.
As you were saying, I thought the 15 men would be a bit too much, but it almost felt like a sort of Royal Rumble where you get these fresh pairings, and I wonder how much is kind of a tease from the office to see what actually hits with the crowd. It's like, okay, Riddle, Orton, that had a pretty big reaction there. Maybe that's something we can go down the line. And you often see it where they call them out. It's like, oh, I know my team tonight will be this guy, hey, this guy, hey, this guy, hey. It's like, okay, and they're trying to gauge from an audience.
there will certainly be implications, I think, coming off of this towards next year's draft, and seeing who they want to bring up.
No, I thought this match was fantastic. Apart from the Walter thing, all the pins made sense. I thought a lot of people got a shine from it. Keith Lee looked tremendous again.
What do you guys think about the selection? Like we see, from this build that Rhea Ripley and Keith Lee are sort of like their big projects, and neither of them were real constants in NXT prior to the debut on USA. What do you think about the selection of those two?
Yeah, no, I've been loving it. I was not super. I knew of Keith Lee before NXT, and then as soon as he got signed, he really wasn't doing much. But ever since this thing, he's rebranded, rebuilt.
They match up so well again. I think against top stars of Raw and SmackDown. Whereas I feel like if you were to bring even somebody like a Candice LeRae up or Tommaso Ciampa, to be honest with you, I don't know if in terms of height, in terms of size, he would match up as well with like Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns or a Braun Strowman or something like that.
I think they both just feel fresh as well. Right. We haven't seen anyone like a Keith Lee
No.
do what he does with the kind of personality he has.
Limitless.
In like not just today's roster, just ever.
Yeah.
And similar with Rhea Ripley, she's got such a different look, such a different build. They stand out from the pack. Whereas, as you said, like a Candice LeRae, as fantastic as she is, you put her up against your like Dana Brooks or like all your other blondes there, she kind of just fits in with the pack. Whereas your eyes are drawn to Rhea Ripley and Keith Lee for sure.
Yeah. Even looking at everyone in this match, and yes, Keith Lee was the one that got probably the biggest showcase in this match. I still look at Matt Riddle as the guy I would just be putting all my stock into in terms of this guy who has the most potential here. And I just like Matt Riddle. I just don't know what he's doing at the moment in NXT. And man, they're just so starved for baby faces that I think he could just walk in and be such a major star on Raw at the moment. And I don't know. I don't know what the long term is for him on NXT at this moment.
I think in a year he's going to be champion. Like within NXT, I think he's still, you got programs there, whether it be with Ciampa or Cole down the line for like main title like programs there. I think he's definitely the one. But also like there's the Goldberg stuff in this match as well. Like we've been seeing him do it on NXT. In fact, I believe even last night on Finn Balor, the spear and the jackhammer, but he did it here and like on Survivor Series.
Like I'd be laying that out that like that's the eventual program is beating Goldberg as the gateway to Lesnar. And
I love that.
Amazing.
Book it now. Yeah.
I feel like it's a given. They're pushing.
There's no
it
way
so
this
hard.
stuff is happening for just
Absolutely.
shits and giggles.
So Royal Rumble, Matt Riddle's in it. Goldberg comes out, set up WrestleMania, Matt Riddle, Goldberg, and then next year
Set it up on NXT.
I would argue though, if that's your idea, then this was horrible usage of Matt Riddle in this match.
I think we're at least a year away from that.
Sure.
You know, I think Riddle has to establish himself as NXT champion first and then make the jump to Raw or SmackDown.
Sure. I will say, watching NXT now on USA, guys like Dijak, guys like Keith Lee, and literally Matt Riddle, they're becoming like my favorite wrestlers in 2019. Like just because they deliver, the characters are clicking with me. It's just really believable, and they kind of do have that underdog feel watching this show tonight.
The best moment of the entire night was Roman and Keith Lee staring at one another, and then they had a sign of mutual respect while the dulcet tones of AC/DC blared.
Those songs are fucking terrible.
God,
Just the
choices,
worst.
man.
I
Seeing
love
Braun
AC/DC.
Strowman walk to the ring to.
Are you ready?
Oh, it's such a bad song though.
AC/DC's
so
great,
weird.
but that song's
Yeah, like look, I love AC/DC.
I don't.
I've been to the Sydney place in there's a pizza shop that's a bar in Sydney.
Yeah.
It's like the guy's son owns or something. It's Frankie's Pizza. This bar is amazing. Wrestlers go there all the time. It's fucking fantastic.
Cool. I want to go get pizza when I hear this song.
Yeah,
come on,
yeah.
so-
Well, this is one of the worst AC/DC songs. Just pick TNT. Oh wait, you can't go. Never mind.
Vince is just raw. Yeah.
And
I'm ready.
And
for a
like
good time.
we have the Slipknot one. Come on, we are not your kind. It's not very good.
That's the least offensive of the three that
Yeah,
we had.
I agree.
Though that theme that they had to play tonight for Survivor Series, what other form of entertainment, of sport, like a sports show you want, anything where they take a song and it's in the background, it's on every graphic for 6 hours. You are just drilled this song. If I was the artist, I'd be like, guys, can you just cool it? Like, you are gonna ruin my fucking song here. There's no easier way to hate a song
think it helps
than it's
the
the
song.
official theme. There's no way I
Yeah.
ever want to hear one of these theme songs after a whole night of hearing it.
Nothing will ever top Downstate All In. So I mean, I know where you're coming from here. Yeah, I understand.
Still recovering from that car ride.
Yeah.
So anyway, Reigns really put over Lee here at the end, as did AC/DC. Becky Lynch gave a tape promo. Pretty much just said she's going to destroy anyone that tries to take anything she's earned. She sees herself in Bayley. Didn't want to hurt her, but tonight she will. That's that. Brock Lesnar, Rey Mysterio, meaning the women were going to go on last. And Mysterio comes out, and it was Rey Mysterio with the pipe in the ring for our WWE version of Clue. And Lesnar just bailed to the floor. You guys got to at least give
You're
me
such a
something.
joker.
Who's my Michael
You're
Cole
such a
to laugh?
joker.
Lesnar caught him and stopped him from using the weapon, and Lesnar just took the panel off the desk and belly-to-bellied Mysterio on the floor into this panel. They go back in, and Rey Mysterio, of all the shit he's done in his career, he takes a German suplex onto the pipe. Dude, that sucked. It just looked like it sucked.
Pipe it up.
I would consider taking the air raid off the cage before I
Oh,
on that pipe. It just, I was like, man, I would not like to take a suplex onto that pipe.
It's weird because like it was supposed to be a lead pipe, right?
Oh, it was definitely lead.
Yeah, it was definitely lead, right? Because like it's weird because Rey Mysterio got Germaned on top of it, and I swear it got some like I didn't know lead could dent like that, but man, those are deep Germans.
He continued with another German when in runs Dominic with the same towel MJF threw in a full
Oh
gear.
my god. Okay, so we watched this at the BDE, me and David and I, and from this point on, I think we lost our goddamn minds. I don't know if it's because of the age thing here. We're like late 20s, early 30s
I
here.
fucking love this.
We grew up watching these guys like for a long time, and
If
I don't know.
if anything is making SportsCenter tomorrow, it's Brock selling for Dominic with chair shots.
Oh, well, we screamed, hoot, and hollered all at this from this point until the end of this match. I was in it to win it. They got me.
So Lesnar goes after Dominic and grabs him by the throat, but gets hit with a low blow from Rey, and then Dominic nails Lesnar. And Mysterio gets the pipe, backed up by Dominic with the chair, and father and son beat the shit out of Brock Lesnar, with the crescendo being a double 619 from the two.
Yeah, and he did it great. Dominic, the PC's working for you if you're down there because it's amazing.
They each then hit splashes off the top, like they were just synchronized divers here.
We were screaming at it. I was on my feet in your room screaming at this.
And then all of this entire angle, the beatdown of Dominic, the reemergence here, the double 619s, it's all built up for a father-son pile-on top of Brock. They get on top, and Lesnar kicks out. This crowd's going nuts for this. They totally buy into Rey potentially winning this. And then Lesnar grabs Dominic and threw him into the 619 area code. Mysterio comes off the top, is caught on Brock's shoulders. I don't think you can appreciate how impressive that is that he caught this man
Like nothing.
on his shoulders into the F5, and Brock wins in 6:55. I really had talked myself into Rey winning this title because I think that this, Raw just needs this at the moment. I don't know what is next for Brock. This feels over to me with Rey, but this was not match of the night, but I enjoyed the hell out of these 7 minutes.
Boy.
So we were watching with Jesse from the Six, who hates Brock Lesnar matches. He's
not
like,
into
it's
this.
the same thing. It's boring, just a beat down, a little hope spot, and then the end. I love it because of that. Like, Brock Lesnar is so different from everything else in WWE, such a different formula. And every match I go, I expect Lesnar to win, but if I can believe at one point in the match that the other guy's going to win, you've got me.
Yeah, isn't
and
this
this
what it's all
happened
about?
and was so much fun. Dominic coming back, getting his payback. Remember when we, little Dominic, the ladder match, and we're seeing this kid grown up,
Little Dominic, son of Eddie Guerrero.
Yes.
Yeah. He did a frog splash.
hitting the frog
Yeah.
splash.
Couldn't even tip over the ladder at that age.
Yeah.
Now look at him.
I thought this was so much fun. I agree. I don't know where you go with Brock from here. I feel
Because I would not expect him for TLC most likely. So we're looking at Rumble. And, on the
Rumble, then Mania.
babyface side, man, you've exhausted Rollins with Brock. And then your next options, babyface-wise, Ricochet, Rusev. These are the options you have.
Yeah.
Aleister Black.
If Rey won, he
Kevin
could've won
Owens.
so many-
Those are your baby faces. And I don't know where you necessarily go. Aleister Black to me is not primed for that big of a role yet. Owens feels like they've kind of missed the mark on doing an Owens-Lesnar program. I guess you could do that. But whatever his idea is for Rumble and Mania, I don't know what it is.
I wouldn't discount someone from another brand winning as well. I think if you're really trying to build up NXT, I see this being the year where you have an NXT guy win the Rumble and challenge for one of the main roster titles. I think because the Royal Rumble winner hasn't main evented WrestleMania regularly for a long time. You've got 3 titles there now, so I can see this being a year you might get a Keith Lee. You're shining up him. Do that. Something fresh, and you'll get more eyes on Wednesday nights as well.
It's interesting because there's no way I bought Rey Mysterio beating Brock Lesnar, but then I'm like,
I did.
and then I'm like,
I really thought that there was the argument. You get, listen, Raw numbers are in the toilet right now. You get a brief run with Rey that I think that people would be into It's a 1 to 2 month title reign.
But I bought it. I was into this. I was like, okay, actually, let's think about this. We got a long time to kill till Mania. We can have Ray versus a bunch of people. You could continue this. And then the part with Dominic, he's on his knees and Brock's got him and he's got the towel and Brock throws it away like a villain. And you're like, Dominic, do it. Hit him in the balls. Kick him. And he didn't do it, but Ray did it. And it just, I don't know. It was a whole story. It really, this is like the part of hope where we like, wow, is he gonna beat Brock Lesnar? And like that's why we watch this stuff. This is exactly. I like when they get me like that.
I
So,
thought the storytelling was
Yeah.
really strong in this.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought the psychology was really strong too, because the whole idea of the match is that Rey Mysterio needs the pipe in order to equalize Brock. Without the pipe, he's just he was
getting thrown, by the way.
Brock is just playing with him, but Brock did not account for Dominic being a third man and Dominic actually having some balls and being able to attack his balls and essentially having to fight off two people. And then once Brock fought Dominic off, it was like, all right, I'm through fucking around. I'm just pinning you.
I'm done. I'm getting out of here.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm done playing around with this.
It was such a great emotional peak. I do kind of wish the match went a little bit longer because it was so good. If Brock does show up at TLC, I think you can do a rematch if it's a weapons match.
TLC match, Brock Ray.
Potentially.
If they're doing the rematch, it's Ray and Dominic versus Brock in a handicap match.
Whoa.
Which they did introduce the weapons that you could do here. So I mean I don't know for a fact that Brock's not doing TLC, but it's possible. That could be the only way I see this. Although, yeah, Dominic and Brock is quite the visual to see together.
The story is just way too good, I think, to extinguish right now. I think there's still more life left in this.
He's gonna reveal Brock is the actual father of Dominic. Ooh, that's what's going on.
After that, we go to the main event: Becky Lynch, Bayley, and Shayna Baszler. And at this point, it's 3 wins for NXT, 2 for SmackDown, 1 for Raw. So not really building things up that it was all that dramatic going into this last match.
Raw was already eliminated.
Raw was eliminated. At best, SmackDown could tie.
They could have given a win to Raw in one of those, right? Like, couldn't they have given? I guess NXT,
you could have had
the
AJ
women-
win the 3-way over Raw,
No,
and then it would have been 3. It would have been 2-2-2 going into this match.
Yeah, but it's fine. Like, this is more realistic.
They're like, hey,
It's like,
look,
whatever.
you guys in NXT, you get paid less. Here, you can win this if you want.
Raw also went like 7-0 last year. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would have liked going into this match because there was the opportunity for there to be a tie between SmackDown and NXT. Them to say, like they've been doing on AEW, we have judges if it goes to an hour draw. They didn't use that, but I like the fact that you go, okay, if it's a tie between SmackDown and NXT, we will have a singles match between those two people, or something like that.
There was none of that.
So it would have been 2-2-2 heading into the finals, right?
If AJ had won,
Yeah.
yes.
Which would have added stakes to this main event.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yes.
I think I actually would.
I don't want to sacrifice that Roddy win. I'm sorry. That's the moment of the night.
Yeah, but also one. Yeah, I don't think people would have been all that. I don't think anyone cares about the brands winning all that much. But this was what the pay-per-view was built around, so it wasn't all that climactic here at the end. So the match begins, and it's like it's just a 3-way, and you're waiting for this to kind of pick up, and so is the audience. Lynch goes for a disarmer on Bayley, and Baszler just kicks Lynch to break up the submission. We're going through the typical pattern where one's on the floor, the others two are going at it. Baszler then lifts Bayley onto her shoulders and gets hit from a missile dropkick coming from Becky Lynch. Bayley then gets shoved into the post, and Baszler hit a knee to Lynch's back, sending her into the barricade and then to the post. And Lynch gets driven over the announcer's desk, and this would take her out of the finish as Bayley and Baszler go back into the ring, and Bayley gets locked into the Kirifuda clutch, suplexes, and is able to get free of the Kirifuda clutch, goes to the top for the elbow, and lands right back into the clutch, which ends with a tap out from Bayley, and Shayna wins in 18 minutes and 5 seconds. I never thought this really got out of the gates. I thought this was a really underwhelming match for what was a really, well built up match. I was really looking forward to this match, and I was glad to see Shayna win. To me, I think the match I want to see is Baszler and Becky, and I would have just had Becky get beaten here and be dealing with the wanting to avenge that loss, and that could be WrestleMania next year.
I think you can still go with that story.
That is what they're still going to go with.
Yeah,
I just think it's more impactful if it was Becky that actually took the loss here. But you could still do that story. Nonetheless, this was not a hot match. I was disappointed with this, especially given the higher expectation to close the show.
It was a little slow going, and I think a big part of the reason was because you had Bayley in control for so much of it. Bayley, at this point, is still a very underdeveloped heel who is still trying to find her way. And beyond that, the work itself was really not all that strong between the three of them. They didn't really find their chemistry, I would say, at all. I didn't even like the way that Becky was taken out. That felt like it was
just like tossed over the desk.
A really weak spot given everything that we had already seen this entire weekend. Not just this show, of course, but the entire week.
I didn't like this match, actually. This was a negative of the show for me. I'm really high on Becky Lynch. I'm definitely always high on Io Shirai, the greatest women's wrestler of all time. But second in my rankings of women's wrestlers is Becky Lynch. She's a draw for me. I liked her promos leading into this, being like, yo, I don't care about brand supremacy. I care about beating you. I'm the best. I'm the man. And I'm always into that. And the potential of seeing Becky and Shayna sounds really good, because I'm not a huge Shayna fan, but over the years now in her reign in NXT, watching her, she's been getting better and better, and the characters would match up so perfectly. And then you had Bayley. I just felt like something just didn't click in this. It was really boring. They didn't do any really high spots. There was nothing that made it stand out to me. I didn't really like this, not one bit. It took me out of everything, and including Shayna lost last night at War Games. Shayna winning is the only plus here, because she gains that back, her loss essentially. But still, weird match for me.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan either. I'm like you guys. It seems to be a bit of a trend as well with these like triple threat women's matches, because I left the main event at WrestleMania feeling a bit cold on that one. And I think Becky is definitely someone who is way better in a singles match, because so much of her, she's great in the ring, but it's her personality that carries across so much. And I don't think she gets that so much in these triple threat matches. Yeah, I just thought it was kind of dull. The taking out of Becky was weak.
So weak.
I do like that she didn't pin Becky, because I think you've got to keep... I think this is the Mania match, these two. And I think you keep Becky undefeated until then. You keep... whether you take the title from Shayna or what. But I think, Becky shouldn't be taking a pin at this point.
Yeah. Afterwards, Becky attacks Shayna and put her through the table with the leg drop. So obviously that should be the story coming out of this, is they're separated on brands, but Becky is going to push for this match. And maybe you revisit it at the Rumble if they're both in, or just something. But I do feel this should be the Mania direction. But in terms of, this wasn't a match that lit the world on fire.
No, and I thought the whole show was very strong, actually. I really enjoyed pretty much every match, and I think to finish with this one, it just left me cold.
In hindsight, I think it maybe, knowing how the matches came across, maybe I would have ended with the men's Rumble.
But I think you wanted
Survivor
the NXT
Series
win at the end. Like they're winning the whole thing, and you want to have that NXT win. So I do understand the placement of it. It's just the match. You put in that position, it didn't deliver in a main event position. So I mean, that's in hindsight you look at, but. Let's do something different. Let's go around on a scale of 1 to 10 before we go to the forum and see what they voted. Braden, what did you give tonight's show?
I'll give tonight's show like a 6 or a 7. I'll be nice because of that I don't know, 6 minutes of Rey Mysterio and Brock Lesnar. I'm gonna give this show a 7 because Roderick Strong won.
I'm doing 7.5. Davey?
Yeah, I'm going with a 7.
I'm going with an 8. I actually really enjoyed the show. I really liked the 5-on-5 matches a lot more than I thought I was going to. I really liked the storytelling in Brock versus Ray. And overall, I just had a lot more fun watching the show than I really expected. I think
we're coming off Hell in a Cell and Crown Jewel, so that might have helped.
Fair.
But I think the addition of just NXT into this has really freshened the whole concept of Survivor Series up in a very positive way.
Do you feel it's going to be a negative now coming out of this, where it's like that element is taken out of Raw and SmackDown in theory?
Yes. In a way, though, it might help things because I feel like we don't have to have everybody suddenly be friends, and we could focus on proper storytelling again.
I don't like people being friends. Candice and Io being friends kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, come on. But Yeah, sorry.
It was energizing, I would say, for the weeks that it was done well, but we got a lot of weeks where it was not done well, and so I'm kind of looking forward to just proper storytelling again. And again, let's remember this entire month has been a commercial for NXT, and I
think a good one.
They gained so much out of it.
You mean the show on Wednesdays that beats the other wrestling show on Wednesdays sometimes?
And overall viewership, not necessarily the
okay,
target
boomer.
demo.
Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer.
All right, we'll save it for the forums. How about that? But I thought they did a great job, and let's compare the value of this type of call up, like for somebody like a Keith Lee or Rhea Ripley, as opposed to somebody like
anyone
Heavy
else.
Machinery,
Lars
EC3.
Sullivan, EC3, exactly. Ricochet.
Heavy Machinery, actually, I like. They're fine in their role.
But even Ricochet, like
Aleister Black,
yeah, exactly. Like I'd much rather be a part of
Bayley,
this class.
Sasha Banks,
Yes.
Seth Rollins.
Yes.
Huh, that's interesting.
Let's quickly go to this, see what the forum voted for, and let's go to a phone call.
All right, they gave it a 6.45 tonight. So let's open up the phone lines.
Phone lines are open, everybody. If you're listening to us live in the forum or in the chat room, please call in 1-732-800-4423. Long distance charges may apply, or call us through Skype. Let's go to our first call, and you are on the line.
Hello, Toronto. This is NJ.
Oh, MJ from NJ.
In New York.
MJ from NY.
I give the show an 8 also. I found it extremely fun to watch and really found myself agreeing with a lot of what you were saying. The matchups, they were matches within matches like you see in the Royal Rumble, but these felt a little bit more prolonged. I guess the biggest downside is that it ends. This is what I want out of the WWE at this point in time. The talent is incredible. All these matchups feel fresh when you put these guys from NXT with SmackDown and Raw, and the fact that there is no payoff or that we can't get this all the time is a pretty it's bittersweet, because tonight was a lot of fun to watch, and I could see myself really enjoying years of matchups that you just made from these 5-on-5 matches tonight with all the different angles.
Mitch, MJ, though, it's sort of a good thing, though, that we're not going to get this, because I think next year when this rolls around, it could potentially be just as fresh, once a year.
It could be. I mean, once a year, it's a nice, I get the novelty of it, but just take that men's match, right? Keith Lee has 2 or 3 programs coming out of it that could extend for 8-9 months, and you could say the same about Ciampa and Orton, Roman, and for sure. I almost would trade the novelty of it to get fresher matchups all 3 nights of the week, opposed to what am I going to get, Miz and Bryan again because they had an interaction tonight. I just rather see the freshness. When we saw Cole and Bryan on SmackDown, that was new. And it could be every week.
Well, again, the next major pay-per-view that would cross brands is Royal Rumble, and that potentially can lead to WrestleMania.
That's not far away.
Not that far away. So the time, this kind of refreshes my interest in Survivor Series, which I think has been a dead concept for 20 years.
Maybe you go with Kevin Owens, the Rogue. Am I on NXT? Am I not? You took me out, but I was going to help you. I didn't attack you. You took me out. What's going on? And he could be involved. They could continue that all the way to the Worlds Collide thing that's still scheduled as well. There's a reason it's called Worlds Collide, because it's Survivor Series 2.0.
Thank you, MJ, for the call. Let's go to our next phone call. You're on the line. What's going on?
Hey, this is Jay from Colorado. How you guys doing?
Hi, Jay.
I'm also in the boat of not really expecting much from tonight's show, and was very pleasantly surprised. Definitely an easy watch most of the way through. Although I gotta say, they did Walter wrong. That hurt. That hurt. As Braden said earlier, man, it just hurt me to my solid core. And especially considering how they've booked the guy, not just his UK career, but in his NXT career. And that's the crazy thing is or in his entire career, and that's the crazy thing is he's had 2 losses so far, and one of them was when Imperium was on Raw or SmackDown, and he didn't directly lose, but someone else got pinned on his team on Imperium, and then this week he gets pinned for the first time, and that was just It hurt.
It hurt more than his chops. It hurt.
It's clear that they.
Yeah.
I don't know if Vince watches NXT UK. He claims that Are you watching Vince McMahon? He claims he is watching.
Do you think Vince McMahon knows what time slot NXT UK is on the network?
I don't think they give a shit what Walter's record is outside of the WWE main roster.
The larger question is how in time they view that response Walter got. If it was an eye opener, you can certainly argue that his presence at least was a long-term positive, even though I would never on paper look at this and put my NXT UK champion in that spot that any other guy could have been put in. Any big guy from either NXT roster could have been put in that spot to lose in 3 minutes, and I don't think anyone would have a problem with it. To me, it's like going out of your way to just position NXT UK, which is already a struggle for a lot of people that are not following that company.
Let's go back to the phone lines. What did you think of WWE Survivor Series?
Hey guys, it's Paul from New Jersey. I enjoyed it. First off, I do have to mention before a group of friends, I think there was like 7 of us, and when Pete Dunne came out, everyone yelled, "I'll break your fingers!"
I'll break your fingers!
I was like, man, Davie Portman is over. Quick comment is, after seeing the way like guys like Shorty G and Ali and Rusev and even cooling off Owens loved the booking of Rhea Ripley, looking like a smart, savvy, tough. Like, hey, I think that's the way you get faces over, and I think, like you guys said, she did great. I'll leave you with this. I really would like to see, like I think John brought up with Kevin Owens, like, and the issue is I'd like to see him win the Rumble and dethrone Lesnar at Mania.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's with Kevin Owens, it's like they run into these periods where they build him up to a degree, and I think the latest was the Shane McMahon feud, and you had him at a certain level and then instantly cooled off right after that, and I think that's where he's back now. And then this weekend, it was like a reheating of Kevin Owens, and I'm just not convinced like they're going to go that far with Kevin Owens. I think he's in a utility role where they can always rely on this guy. They can put him in any segment, in any match. He'll deliver, but there's a ceiling to him. And that's kind of where I see Owens at right now. But I don't have like the great options either. If you're looking at the Raw roster for Brock, beyond looking at, an outside SmackDown or NXT talent as whatever is next for Brock as his Rumble opponent, as his Mania opponent, it's kind of, you look at Raw, like there aren't a whole lot of great options.
Back to the phone lines. Hansi, you're on.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Hope you're all well. I enjoyed the pay-per-view. I thought it was a really fun show. I thought, other than some of the eliminations and the elimination matches were kind of random. Like I still think the best Survivor Series match since this brand split happened was the one in Toronto in 2016 one, like that one that was an hour. It was like really, really good. But I thought this was a better one out of the last 2 years. Like, 'cause the last 2 years were kind of like really dull. But overall I enjoyed it. I liked the spotlight that everyone got, and I'll just leave you guys with this: that in my personal opinion, I think the reason why Mauro Ranallo is taking it so hard, because I hear people weaponizing his mental illness and going, "Oh well, he should be able to take criticism." It's not that. I personally believe that Corey Graves is kind of a puppet, in my personal opinion, and whenever he spouts off on Twitter, I think he's doing it at the behest of an immature, evil chairman. And and he's done this before with like putting down the poor on election night and taking shots at CM Punk. So if Mauro Ranallo wanted to say something back, I guarantee you there would be backlash against him. So to Mauro Ranallo, I praise your name and I hope you get better. And fuck Corey Graves. That's all I'll leave you guys with.
How many famous lines of commentary can you remember from Corey Graves?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even so much an argument of like who's a better commentator. It's just
I like
a
Corey
shitty
Graves.
thing.
Well,
and I wonder if Mauro had any like trepidations about even doing this show to begin with, knowing that
this would have been his first main roster appearance since coming back, where he's been on NXT.
Where he would have would have had the same people on his headset throughout the show. Probably had to do
and
who
now
knows what else.
That extra little thing that just set him off. Yeah,
I just it's the part that, and listen, I'm very open about the fact, like, me and Way worked with Morrow. We know Morrow, but if you sit through that documentary and you're someone that is on Twitter and you're about to hit send on that tweet, knowing that it's not just any other, it's bad enough to a colleague to do that, but knowing his backstory, that's a part I really have a hard time wrapping my head around.
Sometimes I think if you're just a fan, I can understand because you don't really know him.
Sure.
But this is a guy who works with him and has been through this exact same thing. Like, he was on the same panel as JBL when
It's
that
just
whole
like
thing happened.
Listen, I get my fair share of shit from people. It's like it's understandable. Like, we put our voices out there, and criticism is part of it. It would definitely piss me off a whole lot more if it came from someone at this table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not to say Corey and Morrow were necessarily that close. They don't technically work on the same show together. But you understand, like, you guys are on this. It's a colleague doing this. And that, to me,
this criticism should come
lot.
privately. You
No,
call
to
me,
your
you text me, like, not into the public.
Yeah.
Jared, you're on the line. What did you think of Survivor Series?
Guys, so good to talk to you again. And first of all, big shout out to the BDE, having to talk to them again this week, guys.
Hey.
It's a privilege. First of all, as a Australian myself and a fan of AC/DC, and I even saw them in concert once, I have to say a brilliant band, an awesome band, and something that means a ton to our country. But I will say, after the ending to that match, and a really awesome ending where I thought Keith Lee was elevated, and it was even a great sequence with Roman Reigns. That music sucked. The music sucked hard.
What's the best
It was
AC/DC
so
song then?
Thunderstruck every Saturday morning.
Dude, anything I feel like they could have plugged in there, and it was just bad. But I wanted to ask you guys a question. Coming out of it, who did you guys think was the biggest NXT star to get the push? Because I thought it was a big pro NXT event, especially given the fact that they're going against AEW every week, and I know they needed to boost them for Wednesday night.
Yeah,
who did you guys think was the best?
I think you could go several different directions. I would say going into tonight, like, I thought Shayna's been awesome this past month, but I did think tonight's match, it kind of cooled that off. I say Adam Cole. I think Adam Cole just felt like such a major star
What a week.
on this show.
Cole had a great
And you can argue other ones as well, but for me, I think Adam Cole, like, the guy's been great, but I think that many more people are aware of him. And it was just what a week as well. What a 2 nights from the War Games to tonight. Like, he just felt to me like a big star.
On this particular show, I would say the two standouts were Rhea Ripley and Keith Lee. You know, the two finalists of their particular matches. But I think throughout this entire process, it's certainly
Fish and
Adam Cole.
O'Reilly, like, they've killed it while they've been up for all the matches that they've been involved quietly. Roderick's had there's some
Strong.
awesome talent, and they really got to expose it. And
They made stars on NXT.
you didn't see any of the guys put in these positions where they choked under the pressure, or guys they've maybe never worked with or haven't worked with in years. Like, there was really none of that. It was a lot of these guys that stepped up, and it was like these guys could easily be woven into your Raw or SmackDown rosters tomorrow, and the shows would be that much better for it.
Back to the phone lines. Caller, you're on the cafe.
Hi.
Oh, hello. Who's this?
This is Tess from Oklahoma City. I've never got to call in before, so hello.
Hey.
First time, long time.
First time, long time.
So, with it looking like it's going to be Bayley versus Shayna for WrestleMania build-up, my question is, how do they make that match interesting? People already seem kind of bored of Shayna's style. She gets a lot of criticism. And it's not like Becky has a super interesting moveset, we'll call it. I mean, she does do well in some matches, but like someone said earlier, she's more known for her character work. So how, if they're going to build that for WrestleMania, do they make those two actually have a compelling match?
I really like Shayna's like portrayal. I think that she, especially in NXT, as like the top bully that everyone is after, and she just constantly runs through everyone. And I think surprisingly, like, her promo game has greatly improved over the last while as well. That she's got that commanding presence, and that was not something I saw of Shayna Baszler, like, following her MMA career to have that level of presence now that she has. I'm not too worried about the actual buildup of it, but I think tonight you do have a bit of a pause about the actual match execution and what kind of match it turns into, because, Shayna, she's usually delivered on these takeovers, but they haven't been a clean sweep either. Like, she's had some duds in there.
Yeah, it's dependent on opponent. She's in a way similar to Brock Lesnar. I love seeing her against the smaller, quicker people. So her best matches in NXT have been against Kyrie, have been against Io. When
She had that one with Nikki Cross, remember the goofy one where
there was with the passing out.
yeah.
But the one against Mia Yim didn't hit,
Right,
and I like
right.
Mia Yim, but they're maybe a bit too similar. And I think your concern's correct. I think promo wise will be awesome, and you can build on the whole Ronda story that we had last year.
Yeah.
It kind of writes itself.
the Ronda involvement is key, and I would build up to like Ronda's first appearance somehow involved with some kind of angle.
Yeah, I want to
And,
see that.
You know, there's definitely the idea of Shayna going for revenge on Ronda with Becky at WrestleMania, which would be the year to the day of the match.
Maybe it's a match would benefit from some plunder, like no DQ, something like that could help with this one.
I also wonder what the effect of being the last match on a 5-hour block of programming might have had on this, you know, and this was not the first time Becky, of course, has been saddled with, you know, the last spot in a very long show.
Something I noticed, though, that even when Becky was about to hit this, the match is over, Shayna wins, Becky is upset, and she hits a leg drop through the table, right, on Shayna. No one was leaving. Like, the crowd was, like, still, like, looking and watching. No one was going. So I was like, okay, they still are interested, but maybe, the match just sucked.
I think people might have been hoping for some kind of return.
Ronda,
I think so. With it being on last, you expect that big final moment.
Any other thoughts, Tess?
No, I agree. I'm kind of curious because I do think that Becky and Shayna both tend to do better with faster paced people in their matches, unless they do something like they did with Natalya. The only other thing, I was wondering if anybody had any idea how they build Bayley back up after this.
Yeah, I think this was almost the timing of this show was, I think, a little tough because you had just turned Bayley, and I think now you can have the concerted push of Bayley as the top heel on SmackDown, which they pretty much had to stop in the middle of this. So we'll see. The biggest problem for me on SmackDown is that she doesn't have that big baby face.
No challenger.
That's a big problem. You've got to turn someone, or we need a return. Like Lacey Evans to me as the baby face, that is not going to fly. So you need to find that baby face. Alexa Bliss is probably, could be one come back as a baby face.
Dana Brooke,
maybe she becomes that. I mean, these are the options you're looking at: Carmella, Dana Brooke, Alexa Bliss,
Dana Brooke.
She needs that baby face. That's one key.
Thank you, Tess, for the call. Please call again.
Thank you.
Do we want to take a few pieces of feedback from
let's go to
the
the forum.
All right, so let us... do you want to start?
Yeah,
things off?
I'll start. Okay, we got it's me, Luigi, who says, in terms of wrestling, I thought this was a very good show until the main event. The NXT title match was great, and I loved the other two main title matches. Booking was a bit all over the place, but they still managed to create stars out of Rhea and Keith Lee tonight. Main event was bad. Nothing ever got started, and it felt like they were on autopilot before getting to the closing major angle, which was nothing. 6 out of 10 show for me. Please get some sleep, lads. I think he means all of us.
All right. I'm going to go down here to Prakash from Michigan. I have mixed feelings about tonight's show. I must say I enjoyed it. I love the fact that they gave NXT the brand supremacy bragging rights, but I absolutely hated the way they gave Rhea Ripley and her teammates a tainted victory. Rhea should not have needed assists from Io and Candice to beat Sasha. The women's match was not half as good as their War Games last night, but better than the men's Survivor Series match. The only thing I liked about the match was Keith Lee. I had hoped they had not eliminated Walter so early. I love seeing Shayna Baszler overcome Becky and Bayley, but for me the match of the night was the NXT Championship match. It was awesome.
Brian from New York. Enjoyable event for the most part. Felt like the down points of the show were the inexplicable Walter elimination and the general slowness of the beginning of the Women's Survivor Series match and main event. High points were definitely the ways they made NXT look strong tonight, whether it was that killer match between Cole and Dunn, or the finishes of the Survivor Series matches for Ripley and Lee, or Shayna seemingly setting up a major show match with Becky. They all, for the most part, looked great tonight. Ultimate highlight for me goes to the perfection of that double 619 and pin attempt by the Mysterios. Just a genuinely cool moment I'll remember from this night for a long time, no matter the finish of the match.
All right, we go to Connor in New York City from Ireland, but not that.
Oh, I know
friend
Connor.
of the show, yes.
Not
got
that
me very drunk in McMahon's bar.
Not that Connor from Ireland. A show I was looking forward to, and all in all, did enjoy. 6.5 out of 10. I've never liked AC/DC and red lighting less than I do right now. I'm good for three-way matches for a while. Sasha broke up a pinfall, which made no sense, but redeemed herself with that double submission. They missed Roddy's boom, but at least he got the win. And says Nigel was great on commentary, asks about the Mauro Graves situation. So we went over all that at the beginning.
Brad, the dad from Halifax, wants to know, where do they go from here with Brock? Where do they go with the Mysterio Mysterios? Really wish he won tonight. What would you do with Dominic and Ray?
Dominic's going to...
Do you think they do the handicap match?
No, but yeah, I'm kind of down. I don't know.
I'm down for it, but it just seems kind of definitive. Like the end of this, they tried their best. They teamed up on him. They lost cleanly.
Let's move on, Ray.
Yeah, there wasn't... I kind of see that being it.
Is Dominic going to the PC? I heard that he is checking in the new year down in Florida because they're going to let him.
He's trained a few plays. Like he trained at Lance's for a while.
But the rumor is he's starting with them in the new year. So I mean that's pretty interesting. He looked great. It's weird watching. Like now I know I'm old. When I watched him in that ladder match and I was like, whoa, you look good. I was expecting him not to hit the 619 so well, but he did it, kid. You did it, Dominic.
The other X factor is Cain Velasquez and whatever his status is. As of now, he's advertised for that Mexico City show next weekend, but it's kind of unknown. Is this guy going to go for knee surgery? Is he not? And there isn't a whole lot to go back to though with Brock. I mean, they made that one so definitive that you've kind of had Brock just run through everybody at this point, that you've got to create some new babyface between now and the Rumble if you're looking for a fresh face.
Yeah.
Next one here, we go to Nas from New York City.
Not that Nas.
No, maybe it was.
Nas listens to Post Wrestling.
Says, Walter, what the fuck? Why even put him in the match? It could have been anybody from NXT. Happy for Keith Lee, though. The crowd was super weird. Definitely hurt the show. The Women's Survivor Series match was awful. Couldn't we have just done 3 versus 3 versus 3? Did we really need Dana Brooke and company in there?
Yes.
Daniel Bryan could fight my dad under blinding strobing lights and still have a good match. Best in the business. Cole versus Dunn was match of the night. The mid-card triple threat was excellent. The crowd, though. Give Adam Cole a long vacation. He's earned it. Great wrestling show overall, but too many negatives. 6 out of 10.
Scrump from the PWT cast. Bang, bang. What is up, you guys? Full disclosure, I did not watch much of this show, and I didn't plan to. I turned down tickets to go see the show live and instead went and saw the Taika Waititi movie, Jojo Rabbit.
Cut you off, I am friends with this guy, Scrump. And the first few seconds of this pay-per-view, someone holds up a sign that says PWT cast. I text Scrump. I'm like, oh, that must be you. And he's like, what? I'm at a movie. I'm like, what? Oh, okay.
Well, he goes on to say about 30 minutes into the movie, Braden texted me and let me know there was a PWT cast sign on screen. So after the movie, I tuned into the beginning of the show as a friend of mine was holding up that sign. I drove home and thought I should just give the show a chance as one of my favorites, Walter, was going to be on the show and would surely be given time to shine and mix it up with the likes of Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens. As soon as I started watching, he got pinned. All weekend, I said I would rather eat a denim jacket than to be subjected to watching another 7-hour main roster show. And I'm glad I got to watch the newest episode of The Watchmen instead of what sounded like a lame duck main event.
Ooh, shots fired.
All right.
By Scrump. Bang, bang.
All right, we continue on here. Luke from Quebec. This was a pretty damn good show. Other than the length, as usual, I was worried a lot of people would look weak coming out of the elimination matches, but they did a good job booking them, except for Walter. What the hell? I also was very disappointed in the crowd tonight. They were mostly silent for Styles, Nakamura, Strong, and even for Cole and Dunn. Really goes to show that main roster crowds just aren't the same as takeover ones. We blame WWE a lot for crowd reaction, but if seeing these matches doesn't get you out of your seat, I don't know what will. Now back to keeping NXT as far away from Vince McMahon as possible, please.
Please.
Finally, we got a Jesse from the 6666. Survivor Series matches are hard to book. A bunch of people have to take a fall. I know John's not a fan, but I always like them. But it takes tact to book them right. Vince McMahon has no tact because he sucks. There were so many unenforced errors it does my head in. Pros, NXT won overall. Cole versus Dunn was good. Keith Lee got some shine. Cons, the opening match was booked stupid. The show was too long and the crowd got tired. The Fiend is not a main event character. Lesnar matches are mostly boring. And Walter's elimination was a crime against wrestling. Take care.
All right. Well, there you go. That was all of our feedback tonight. And I think the end of our Survivor Series review. So, guys, wow. I want to thank you for invading. We don't have to see you for another year now.
Yeah.
Brand supremacy. Hey, wait, we'll I'm sure a few of our podcasting people will bump heads in the Royal Rumble. That's how it works. That's the next one. Worlds collide.
Yes.
We invaded. NXT won tonight, just like it did in the ratings, like it will every week.
All right.
He's really high on this.
Yeah, thank you for letting us invade the post office, the BDE invading. We really appreciate it.
What do you guys
It's
have?
a very polite invasion, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's very much a Canadian invasion.
Yeah.
You knock first. It's like, is it
yeah.
okay? Can I come in?
And full disclosure, the Thai food that you recommended the other
Yeah.
day.
Oh, fantastic.
I got a message from Davey after. Didn't get a thank you from you for the recommendation, but Davey clearly the more polite one.
This place was good, and I don't want to.
We're not gonna let
I don't
people
want to
know.
let people
It's our
know where
secret.
this is.
Actually, of my 2 text message exchanges, it was Davey contacting me to, hey, thanks for the recommendation. The Thai food was great. I was like, wrote a nice message. You, on the other hand, saying, hey, I think I'm going to go mouth gig on Friday. And then late in the evening, I said, hey, we're going to see you there? No, I'm bailing.
To be fair, I tried last minute to go to a wrestling show. But then when I got there, who would have thought indie wrestling selling out a venue in 2019?
You were going to go to the Super Kick show?
Yeah, but it was sold out, so I couldn't give them my money. So they made enough, apparently.
Man, so all the events, no tickets for Braden.
No, I didn't get to go to Mouth's gig, hang out
For a
with
guy
you guys.
that mooches, free tickets
Always,
everywhere. I'm
yeah,
shocked that you
yes.
didn't get in anywhere.
I love free things.
We know. Yeah. Well, guys, what do you have coming up through beyond Up Next, which drops every Wednesday night here at postwrestling.com? What's coming up on the Patreon?
So, yes, you can, if you're watching, we like to review the Star Wars movies in the BDE. So we've been going through them chronologically. We just released a review of Rogue One on our Patreon today, which is patreon.com/upnext. And we're both going through the Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian. So you can check out our review of episode 2 and 3, which is available on our Up Next feed as well as our Patreon feed for free. This week we've got a show called Up Yours, which is where we go to our world champions, our top tier for the Patreon, who select something for us to watch and review. And we're going back to 2016 to look at the Cruiserweight Classic.
Yeah, we're gonna go watch that. We've watched a few other things from the Up Yours recommendations, but some of the shows that we've done and created for our Patreon have been pretty crazy. We created this show called Best Match Ever, where we argue about matches. What are the best matches ever? We've done the best Hell in a Cell, Rock Austin, Misawa Kobashi. Spoiler alert for upcoming the next month, we have one planned. What is the best TLC match ever? Well, you have to find out by listening to our show. So we have a bunch of stuff coming out, and we're super psyched because we do Up Next every Wednesday night. We do now live on our YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:30. BDE Official.
BDE Official on YouTube.
Yeah.
We've also got another episode of Was Next coming this week. Where we go back to 2012 to the beginning of the Full Sail era of NXT.
We're just starting that. Seth Rollins has debuted, Biggie Langston, Bray Wyatt. They're all debuting right now, which is crazy to see. And then we also do AEW Dynamite reviews on the Thursdays as well. We're doing so many crazy podcasts.
How many bonus shows do you guys have on your Patreon every
Way
week?
too many.
We're doing 4 a week.
Oh, man.
So Up Next plus 3 other shows.
Sometimes even more. So it's pretty crazy.
This week we're doing another free Star Wars one as we go to A New Hope as well. So we're busy boys right now.
You guys are outworking us.
We are following in the footsteps of the great John Pollock and Wai Ting. So
to clarify, Up Next on the free feed, which you can find on iTunes, Spotify, Google, just search upNXT.
Yeah, help us out.
That's
even
all
if
that.
you're like, I don't want to listen to, I just want that NXT show, then help us out. Go subscribe, review, rate, and follow the Up Next Twitter account at UpNext Podcast on Twitter.
On the free feed, it's Up Next every Wednesday. You have the Mandalorian review up on for the free feed as well.
Yeah.
And then on your NXT Patreon feed, 2 bonus shows, three
sometimes even
three
more,
bonus shows a week.
$5 a month gets you all that.
We're overwhelmed by all the Patreon love that, you guys have been doing Patreon for a while now, and we decided with the move with NXT, getting the hype that we try to do this, and we're like overwhelmed. We literally love this.
There's
it's
no
amazing.
better motivation than to know people are willing to part with money to hear your opinion. So
shout out everyone who supports us. Again, even if you're just listening to the weekly NXT shows, that's cool too. We just want to say thank you, because it's like this little weird networking thing we've created, and again, you two have been fantastic to us. So
And
you guys are doing it yourselves.
Thank you guys as well. Yeah. You came onto our show this week for the Survivor Series draft, and we got a boost in Patreon subscribers.
You are money, baby.
You guys are drawers.
Legit. If you just want to tune in for this game thing that we did, the Survivor Series, the real Survivor Series draft, where we all came up with teams.
It was fun.
All you got to do is pay $5 and you can listen to that show if you
All
don't
from
even
the
like
brain
it.
of Davie.
Yeah.
We're trying to think of some more similar stuff.
Yeah,
we can do down the
if
line.
you liked that draft, let us know any other draft idea games that we could do. It's hard to do one for the Rumble, but we were like, it was a fun show to do. So yeah, we've just been really enjoying doing this. Again, like we just started talking about NXT every week, and it became this little ball of fun that we love doing it. So thank you guys for letting us be a part of post wrestling and all this stuff, because it's fantastic. It's amazing.
One of the most important things is to always interact with your listeners, and sometimes you're on multiple social media outlets that you don't always check messages. So on Saturday, once a month I go into my Instagram messages and I just see people that have sent messages there, and I
never check those.
No one checks those, do they?
I check my DMs every 5 minutes.
Braden, you do.
Men in their 20s who are single check their Instagram DMs.
That's how I get around.
But this is what I tuned into or logged into on Saturday from earlier this week, starting on Tuesday night at 10:32 p.m. What time is Review Away going up? Next one, Wednesday, 4:56. Awesome, thanks. Following message. You really cater to your patrons, LOL. Next message. Recording it now would have been suffice.
Oh my
And then he ends it, LOL. So I believe he can see here that I have not read any of these, but he deduced that I was ignoring him this whole time. So I'm not going to give out his username here, but I was not ignoring you. It went up on Tuesday night at around 1 a.m. is when Rewind went up.
I guess so.
Anyway.
Always check your DMs, John.
Always check your DMs.
Check
What's
your
really
DMs.
annoying is
it
that
goes down.
sometimes I'll get tagged in stories, and by the time I get to my message, I can't see them anymore. So that sucks.
That's a good thing for me sometimes. They disappear quick, you know. You can never be too
gotta
safe.
teach us about how to use it.
I don't want to know Braden's techniques. That's going to wrap it up. So thank you to everyone for joining us. Wai and I will be back Monday night with Rewind to Raw, going through night number 4 at the Allstate Arena. We'll see if there's anything left of this Chicago crowd on Monday night with a 3-hour Raw for them to sit through. And then Braden and Davie are back Wednesday night with Up Next. We'll have Rewind to Dynamite. Whole schedule will be out on Monday. Thanks, guys, very much for coming over to the post office.
You.
And that is it. We are now off the air.